Hi everyone, how exciting our first Power BI Women's Summit. Hi Denisha.
Hi. Hi, Deborah.
Hi. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, everybody.
And now here's Jackie Chiati to introduce the Power BI Women's Summit. Take it away, Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie Chiati, co-organizer of Power BI Women. Welcome to our first annual summit. We invite you to attend in order to deepen your Power BI skills, learn successful career strategies from women in technology leaders, hear from our male allies, and gain insights from the Power BI team. Without further ado, let's get started.
We're kicking off this Power BI Women's Summit with a fireside chat with Kelly Kay and Rupali Jain. Rupali is a partner director and head of product for Power BI at Microsoft.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, whatever your time zone may be. Welcome to today's Fireside Chat for our first ever Power BI Women's Summit. My name is Kelly Kay. I'm the Power BI Engagement Lead for the Power BI community, and today I am honoured to introduce a fantastic leader at Microsoft, Rupali Jain, who's the Power BI Head of Product. Good morning, Rupali. How are you today? Thank you for joining us, and how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. The honor is all mine. Thank you so much for having me. It's super fun to be part of the Power BI community and finding ways for us to connect, especially since we can't do this in person, which would have been way more fun. But again, I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. And, I'm sad, we can't do this in person, but really appreciate your time. And I think we're going to have a fun time today too. Okay, let's begin. How about we start with telling us a little bit about yourself? We'd love to know a little bit about you and your professional journey.
Sure. Yeah, my professional journey is not very linear. So I started as an engineer, switched to program management, and then I decided I wanted to be on a different continent. Actually, I should step back a little bit. So I grew up in India and came to the States to do my master's, mostly to get experience on a different continent in a different country. And then spent about 10 years here and then decided to go do my MBA in France, which was phenomenal. Such an experience, learning from different people, the cultures, and just the diversity of opinions in the room was phenomenal. After that, I did strategy consulting for a little bit and then came back to tech. And that was my first time in enterprise tech, mostly because I couldn't get hired into consumer tech. So this was around 2011, 2012. And at the time, my MBA, my experience in consulting, and my experience at Microsoft, which all things that are awesome, really worked against me, since the focus in the industry was on hiring pure talent straight out of school, especially for consumer roles. But in enterprise, I found that my experience was valued. And that was the first time in my career that I really realized that I needed to play to my strengths. I then spent time at Box, Tableau, and Qualtrics, all startups in the hypergrowth phase, either pre-IPO or just after IPO. And startup may be a bit of a misnomer when a company is a few hundred people, but all growing so very fast. And it was during this time that I realized how self-service data analytics could change one's career. With data, I was able to get an understanding of the business that I was in and running. And at one point, I started sending biweekly emails to the team and to our leadership team with insights. One of my emails actually got forwarded to the CEO at the time, and that really accelerated my growth in the role. And it made me realize how important insights are. I've been hooked on data and analytics products ever since. So if I look at my career, I've spent over half of it now in data and analytics. And after that is when I came to Power BI.
Wow. Okay. That's just amazing. I mean, from India to the US, going to do your MBA in France, there's so much diversity of experience. It's fantastic. And it's great that you found a place in the enterprise, for your skills. That's fantastic. So, okay, tell me, you said, and that's how you came to Power BI. So what brought you to Power BI?
So many things. So I was at Qualtrics just before I came to Power BI. And In Qualtrics, I was the head of product for one of their businesses, and it was really interesting. I had made a statement to someone that I wanted to grow a business to become a $500 million business. And I realized at one point in 2020 that I was going to hit that milestone, never realizing ever in my life that I was going to hit it. So once I realized that, it forced the question on me of like, what's next? What was I going to do next? And there were lots of different options. I could have stayed at the company and continued to grow that business. But I felt like I had to look and see what else was out there and do something different. I tend to like discomfort and I tend to like new things, apparently. And so that's when I started having conversations with people. And Power BI happened to me similar to a lot of my previous roles, actually. I shared with a couple of trusted mentors that I was ready for a new challenge. I got introduced to Arun. I loved the team. I loved the conversation with Arun, his leadership style. I also loved how Power BI as a product had been growing and how the business had been growing, which I'd been watching on the sidelines. And it was such an exciting challenge and an opportunity for me to come back to Microsoft. I knew I would learn a lot. And given the focus that the Power BI team and the product has on usage, on community, these are things that are not common in enterprise SaaS. And so for me, I knew that I would be bringing some strengths to the table, as well as there were so many things for me to learn in the new role. And so that combination, along with the set of people, is what brought me here. At that point in time, I was looking at this role and one other, and they were both equally exciting. And the interesting thing is, what swung it for me was Arun's LT had several women on it, his leadership team. And so I knew there was support. It wasn't the only reason, like I talked about all the cool things happening with Power BI, but it did play a small part for me coming to this specific team in Power BI and joining the product team.
Wow, that's fantastic. I think one of the great things you just said was that you like discomfort, which is really, liking a challenge and learning new things, and it's all about growth, as a professional. So I love that about you, and I love that you came to Power BI, and of course you have joined the best team.
It is the best team. It is.
It is, and it's one of the great things that I love about Power BI, that we have so many women, and I know that Arun particularly has been a huge advocate for diversity and inclusion in his organization. He's a great example of an ally and mentor for women. He's certainly helped so many people that I know of. And, when we talk about careers and women and, Power BI women externally or even internally at Microsoft, what kind of advice would you have to women who might be struggling in an organization which maybe isn't as, I don't like to say isn't as supportive, but maybe hasn't evolved to that point? And, have you ever been in that situation? And if so, what sort of things, what strategies, what's helped you navigate your career and success?
Yeah. Yeah. The sad part is it happens. I've been there, and it's not fun when that happens. For me personally, my bias is to find a way to make the situation tenable or see if I'm learning enough to overcome the adversity to stick it out or find something different. Like, those are all options that I consider when something like that happens. The other thing that I've realized is it's not the organization that is not supportive, it's specific leaders, right? And they tend to amplify their impact, whether they're supportive. In Arun's case, he's incredibly supportive of this organization, and that impact is amplified in other organizations. When they're not supportive, that impact is also amplified. When I find myself in these situations, there are a few things I like to look at. One is I start with myself. I start by looking at communication styles, like what types of communication styles allow people in the organization to succeed. Because first and foremost, I find that one has to adapt to the communication style of the organization and what the leaders expect. And if I can adapt to that communication style, it takes away some of that level of discomfort or that level of unsupportedness that I'm feeling. It's not always the case. And so the second thing that I try and think about is like, great, how can I talk about my accomplishments and ask for what I deserve? And I give this advice to folks that I mentor as well, right? And this is where data comes in super handy, because I hate talking about myself. I hate this concept that is managing up. But at the end of the day, for folks to be successful, for me to represent my teams really well, I do have to share the outcomes and the results that the teams have achieved. And data is so handy here, because then I can take the focus away from I'm talking about myself and all the great things I've done, which is god awful because I'm so uncomfortable doing that. But I can just present the data. It's like, look, this is what the team did. This is what we achieved. This is what we started out to do. This is how we exceeded, or this is how we didn't exceed the goals. And so it makes it a factual conversation, which is much easier to have than oh, we did this, we're awesome. It's just not my comfort zone. It again goes back to styles and goes back to communication styles to a certain degree. So that's two. It's like, don't hesitate to talk about accomplishments and ask for what you deserve. Another option is to look and see, find managers and leaders that are supportive, and find friends. You have to find a support system if you're in an organization that doesn't feel supportive, because it can get very isolating otherwise. At minimum, your friends, these leaders, your support system can be your sounding board as you vent. And more often than not, they can also help coach you or suggest strategies to help deal with and improve the situation. And finally, don't blame yourself. Don't let it get you down to the point of impacting your self-esteem or confidence. If the above strategies don't land you in a good spot, don't hesitate to find something new. Have confidence in yourself. Have confidence that you're awesome and that you deserve better. So do the right thing for you.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. I love the first three things that you said. You look at yourself, you see if there's, if it's a tenable situation, or if I'm learning enough, maybe I can deal with it and try to make a change, kind of thing. Or else if it's not, leave. And then finding friends, finding the right leaders who are supportive. Be confident, and and believe in yourself. Which I love. So all of these are great strategies. I think it's great advice for people who are growing their career. I think if we move to kind of the everyday data notifications and managing your workload on a day-to-day basis to get to that successful point, we're seeing a lot of data, a lot of notifications, a lot of reporting alerts. What's a strategy that you've used to help focus on what is important at work and at home, especially for those who have a work-life balance, family, and maybe caregivers or other challenges?
Yeah, I'll share what works for me, and this one's different for each person I talk with based on what's important, what is the balance. Life has become so interrupt driven, and it's crazy. I used to think that I'm good at multitasking, and I realized I'm terrible at it. So what I've done is I basically turn off all notifications, everything except text messages. And I did this for the first time in 2012 and have never needed to turn them back on again. I can go to my email, I can go to chat and see what's happening. I'm not going to miss anything. And yeah, I might be a little bit late in answering an email or that chat message. And you know what? Turns out it's okay. Like, it's okay. People can wait for a few minutes. They can wait for a few hours for me to get to my email. Because it's so important to find that time to think, especially like for me, when I do my best work is when I think about it and don't just spew off something that's top of mind. And in COVID especially, it has forced me to create much better boundaries. The thing that I've done for myself is, funnily enough, I started working out during COVID more to deal with the stress of work and maintaining balance. And so I do that in the mornings, and my 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock is pretty sacred. And so I give that up maybe once a month or so, but my team knows it, my managers know it, my team knows that I will decline meetings during that time. And I take my dog out for a walk. And it's one way for me to get outside, get a change of pace, and spend time with the dog. And, evenings, I try to shut down so my husband and I can spend some time together, because otherwise, with two people working, it's just so easy for our work life to blend into our home life. And that's the only thing we do. But that doesn't make me feel human. So I've realized I've had to carve out these I don't know whether they're artificial boundaries, real boundaries, something, but I've had to do that.
Wow, Rupali, that's excellent advice. I love that you take time out during the day to kind of refresh your brain, have a break, as you know, we used to do in the office sometimes when you go and get a cup of coffee or something like that. And the notifications, turning those off for people, it might not work for everybody, and you know, maybe we need to choose which ones are important, but I think gone are the days of waiting for responses, and now most people are used to instant gratification. We don't necessarily need it, you know, maybe only for an emergency. So thanks so much about talking about your career and success factors. I think we can maybe kind of switch gears a little bit more to the product side, since you know you're head of product. we've seen the kind of evolution of how we use data and how we can present valuable insights in Power BI. And for the business professionals who may not be using Power BI today, we see Power BI through other tools like Teams, for example. So if your organization uses Teams but doesn't use Power BI, you know, particularly, but your company does have Power BI, well, no worries. Let's share the report on Microsoft Teams and give your stakeholders a taste of what their data can really, really look like and really shine. And so, you know, we're keeping people in an experience that they're used to by staying in that one experience. What other areas do you see opportunities for Power BI to grow into?
Yeah, there's so much opportunity for Power BI. And it's phenomenal, right? Like one of the reasons I came back to Microsoft is because there's so much opportunity for Microsoft in the analytics space. Let me start with Power BI specifically. Just continuing on the path that we've been on for a few years, driving usage, growth, and value to the end users. Kelly, you talked about Teams. Think also about Excel, PowerPoint, Dynamics. Wherever you are doing your work, how do we bring insights to you? How do we make it so easy for you to get that first level of like, here's the basic data that you need to do your job so you can make better decisions? And balancing that end user value with enterprise needs for the organization, especially capabilities around big data, governance, security, which are so critical to enabling the end users get the insights they need so you can really make decisions at scale. Both of these remain true for us, and our investments continue to accrue to these teams. But if I think about expanding to Microsoft across analytics, we have an opportunity to create this incredible value for users and customers through one ecosystem of applications and a simple, cohesive story across the board. So our customers don't have to tie everything together with duct tape and chewing gum or having to write a ton of code. So that's where the opportunity lies. And that's how we make it incredibly easy to drive a data culture.
I love the duct tape and chewing gum, and I love seeing how we can see Power BI in other areas. And the most important thing is the insights, right? All of the business users now, you know, have never before had an opportunity to drive their decision making through data. And it's just incredible how far we've come. It's fantastic. So thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like it's great for it all to come together. And, you know, I might want to put you on the spot a little bit here. And, you know, I've got to ask the $50 million question, which is, you know, as the head of product, just before we're going up to Ignite, and I know we've got some big announcements coming up tomorrow, where do you see the product going?
I think I talked a little bit about, you know, where the product is going and our balance of how do we really drive broad usage as well as create that framework for the enterprises to be really successful at scale. But let me give you a couple of examples of the things that touch me personally and the ones that I use a lot, right? So the Power BI Teams app, which has been in preview for a while, it's so massive because these days we spend so much of our time collaborating on Teams. And that's just where we are. And having Power BI accessible and the data accessible just one click away makes it that much easier for us to make decisions based on data. Another area for me that is really interesting that, you know, the team spent a ton of time on is the general availability of our Gen 2 platform, which we just announced a few days ago. we have higher performance, higher scalability. It auto scales when you need that burst of capacity for that all important report that you know people are going to open on Monday morning when they get into work. And they don't have to think about it. And my favorite is around goals, especially with tracking, updating goals, and creating goals to align the organization to be working on the same outcomes. I absolutely love goals. And the main reason for this is if I think about data and I think about insights, data is not really useful unless you do something about it, unless someone takes action to move the needle on it. And goals for me is that way of taking action, of seeing what the outcomes are, of seeing where you are towards those outcomes and making a change to the business to drive to results. And that's why goals is so important. So lots of different investments. We could probably be here for a couple of hours talking about where the product's going. But this is just a taste of some of the cool things. And we'll talk a lot about this at Ignite coming up in the next couple of days as well.
Thank you, Rupali. Thank you for your insight there. It's going to be fantastic. I also agree with you in terms of teams and goals. They're definitely, our favorites here because it keeps you in that immersive experience. You don't have to leave to get all of your insights. And I'm really happy to hear that there'll be some growth in those areas. And, when our product grows, so does our community. And we've seen our community grow quite a bit. And, it's because of those innovations. So what are your thoughts on the Power BI community?
Oh, I don't know. I'm joking. The Power BI community is awesome. Everyone is so incredibly engaged, so there for each other. There's so much goodness in this community. As this community continues to grow, I want us to continue supporting each other more and more. People are making data-based decision-making part of their daily lives. And this community is so critical, such a foundation for helping everyone do that. And also, I love the community personally because it also gives us, the product team, feedback on what matters and how Power BI can continue contributing not only to your professional success, but also grow your careers and how we can help you grow with data as a foundation. So I just love the community.
Yes, absolutely. We know the Power BI team loves the community. Thank you for saying that. And we do listen to the community and build our products that way, of course. And with the expansion of the products that you just mentioned earlier, or the product areas you just mentioned earlier, the Power BI community grows as well because people join the community to ask questions, connect. They might join one of the user groups on our new user group platform. And, we've got some groups that do studies for the DA 100 certification for Power BI. We have just so much to offer. And I suppose we've kind of come full circle here at the Power BI Women Summit, haven't we? So, it's exciting times ahead. It's exciting times. So we're going to, I think we're just about out of time right now. Any final words or final thoughts for us to share?
As a community, keep engaging with us. Keep telling us what you need. Keep telling us how we can make you successful. And don't forget, each and every one of you is incredibly awesome. Have the confidence to take data and to grow your careers in the way you want to grow your careers. Have confidence that the right support system, whether it exists or not, that you can be successful. And it's so important that confidence is what's going to take you forward in life and in your career. So I wish you all success ahead. And I look forward to meeting you someday soon.
Thank you so much, Rupali. It's exciting times again. And speaking of exciting times, we are hiring. If you're thinking about joining the Power BI team at Microsoft, please go to aka.ms/Power BI jobs, where you can see all the latest job postings. And remember, check there regularly. And if you'd like to join our Power BI Women user group, please do so at aka.ms/Power BI Women. Thanks again for joining us today. Have a great summit.
Thanks, Kelly. This was wonderful. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you, Rupali, for joining us today at the Power BI Women Summit. And also, thank you for sharing your perspectives as a Power BI woman leader.
Are you a woman who's enthusiastic about Power BI? Would you like to connect with and learn from other Power BI women? Would you like to be among the first to know about the future of Power BI? Are you looking to grow as a Power BI speaker? We invite you to join the Power BI Women Group. Our mission is threefold: support all Power BI women, grow the number of Power BI women-led user groups, and expose more girls to Power BI. Power BI Women offers a supportive environment to share knowledge as we encourage and empower each other in our Power BI careers. We meet the second and fourth Wednesday of each month. The second Wednesday is our town hall meeting where we hear from a Microsoft guest speaker. In prior town hall meetings, members received updates on the product and had opportunities to ask questions of Microsoft's Power BI team. The fourth Wednesday is our learning session, where community speakers share knowledge on a variety of topics. Past topics include Azure Cognitive Services in Power BI, conflict resolution for women in tech, and the blueprint for speaking in tech. We've also hosted Power BI certification study groups. Whether you're new to Power BI or a leader in the field, we look forward to meeting you. And now we have Amanda Rivera, Principal Program Manager in Power BI, sharing more about her career, the Power BI community, and Power BI with Kelly Kay.
Well, hi, welcome. Hang on, let's just take our masks off here. Now, I'll put this over here. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you? It's great to see you back
Thank you.
in campus. We're here in person.
Yes.
It feels a bit crazy, you know? Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
I'm very happy to be here with you.
we are so excited that you're here for the Power BI Women Summit. It's our first summit.
Exciting.
It really is. And, you know, Amanda is a principal program manager here at Microsoft with Power BI.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Amanda is Power BI royalty, as we all know, and she's very modest. But we really, you know, see all of the beginnings of Power BI from Amanda's videos. She was certainly one of the people that I looked up to and saw her YouTube videos and learned Power BI from. So for me, it's like a bit of fandom here. So it's great to see you and you know, learning from all of your experience at Power BI. We'd love to hear about it. So how about, let's just start from the beginning. How did you start at Power BI?
I was a college hire. So I studied computer science in school. And then when I was looking at like what companies I wanted to work for full time, obviously Microsoft was exciting because, you know, Microsoft sounds fancy on a piece of paper. And then one of the other things I really liked about Microsoft was that I knew, even though I was a computer science major, that I didn't necessarily want to program my whole life. I wanted to be able to do more than that. I wanted to like work with people. And so Microsoft was one of the few companies that let college hires actually go in as a program manager directly. So I was able to interview, and I was really lucky and found a great team coming right out of college. And so I was actually straight on from college right into the BI space.
I love what you just said. You know, Microsoft is definitely, you know, a resume grabber. You know, we love Microsoft, as you know, as everybody knows. But it's really lovely that you're able to come in as a PM. You know, if you don't want that, you know, pure development experience.
Yes, yeah, and it's like I knew, like, just even from the projects, that wasn't the type of work I wanted to do. And really, the great thing about being a PM is that you get to do so much. I get to work with the engineers, and so I still get to not use my CS degree, but, you know, still get to work with people who have a similar background. But then I also get to work with so many different types of customers and MVPs and community members and designers and basically every type of, you know, person who's part of the system I get to work with. And I love that.
It's the best of both worlds, really.
Yes, it really is. I love the job.
So how long were you at Microsoft before Power BI was launched?
2 years-ish, I would say. Like I said, I joined into the BI space, so I actually worked on Power View to start with. For people who have been around a little bit longer, I was on Power View first. And then so I got to be here in that transition from like the Power Pivot, Power View days into the like Power BI as we know it today. And So it was a very exciting ride, kind of a roller coaster, but amazing.
All of your first videos, so, teaching people about this great new product. And looking ahead, looking back, I should say, wow, right?
I love that I got to be part of that journey and help introduce new people into Power BI as well. That's one of my favorite parts of the job, is that I get to meet new people and across all stages of their journey, but especially people who are just coming in, helping them learn about the product and maybe start new careers or things like that. It's a lot of fun.
We always are asked, what do you do at Microsoft? What kind of job do you have? Do you have to be, a super dev? And there are some exceptional engineers. I mean, at Microsoft, women who are engineers at Microsoft. I remember working in IT, and I think 7 out of 8 of our engineers were women. So
that's great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, with looking back in your experience and launching a product and being in that kind of startup mode and thinking about women and the community, how did you think about bringing in the community? And I ask you this because you're so engaging. Your videos were really engaging. They really taught me a lot. And this is, from personal experience. I know a lot of people watch them, and they learned a lot. And it was so clear. How do you decide kind of what the message is and how to bring people in?
Well, I think a couple of different things, I would say. One is that whenever I think about making content in general for Power BI, I really try to talk to a person. I've wanted to feel like I'm talking one-on-one with something, and helping this person who is watching the video, one-on-one, let's figure this out, let's learn, let's figure out how can I use this feature? What are all the details of it that I would care about? And so I try to take that person first approach. So not care so much just about technically how the product works, but what are the scenarios they're interested in and how can I help them? So I think that's a big thing, is that people first approach, I would say. And then just in general with the community, I find that whenever, and I take this from a PM perspective, whenever we build products, our products are always going to be so much better if we engage with the community first to learn about their challenges. And so I think whether it's building content about the product or building the features themselves, actually spending time to talk one-on-one with people as much as I can, or if it can't be one-on-one, talking on Twitter or any kind of other community space and learning what they need really helps influence all of that content.
When you say people first, I actually felt that, when I first was learning Power BI, because it was like you were talking to me, but I never realized it until you just said it. Seriously. I mean, that's what makes it good.
I think it makes it more engaging and interesting versus just a talking head smart person just lecturing me.
Yeah.
Actually feel like you're having a conversation about it.
That's a nice revelation, learnings for me today. Okay, so talk to me about, being a PM here, speaking with the MVPs and engineers, and being a young woman in a great tech company. Talk to me about supporting functions that Microsoft has, your team. I know personally, Arun is a huge supporter.
One of the great things about Power BI is just how many women there are. A lot of, even on the the engineering side, the people who actually program, a lot of the leadership are women, and very smart, brilliant women.
Yeah. And
everyone here tries to make it feel like a family, and they want to support you. Obviously, you still have to advocate for yourself, but you have that back, the people to fall back on. So if you're advocating for yourself, there's that support system there, just because there's so much diversity on the team.
100%. Rupali Jain is, yes. She's amazing, right? I think she's the partner director, and she's actually head of product for Power BI at Microsoft. And so, I love Rupali. I love what she's doing with the product. I love how she's thinking about the future. One of my people that I look up to in the Power BI team is also Kim Manis.
Yes.
Justina.
I love working with all people. I love all these people working with them. Yeah. And some of the best times I've had on the team is whenever there's been women in my leadership chain. I don't know, it helps me see myself also, growing in the company as well. I've been here a while, but there's still, so much, I'm hoping so much more left for me to grow on the team. And so it's nice to see other people even higher than me. So I know I can also achieve that. It's great.
It's a succession plan. And because you're seeing a woman leader, it's
I know I can do it too.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about in Power BI Women as well. We say, okay, we want to support support women in Power BI. And, we want to grow the number of women-led user groups and expose more of the younger generation of women coming up to Power BI and the career trajectory. And oh gosh, who are the others? There's so many other women. I mean, I know Mathangi just joined. Sujata is fantastic. Rosie.
Yes, there's even on my team. There's so many women PMs. It's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so speaking of career choices, so you've come to Microsoft. You've decided to do a balance of technical and non-technical, and bringing those skills together. For somebody graduating from college and thinking about Power BI as a career, what kind of other career paths could they take? That from a beginner's perspective, where could they start?
I think one of the great things about Power BI is that there's data everywhere now. And so no matter really what path you take, you can find a way to incorporate Power BI into it. Actually, a lot of the best people I know in the community, they didn't start out saying, I'm going to be an analyst. They started out in other careers, they're in accounting or they're in finance or HR. And then all those places, you still have data. And so they found ways to incorporate Power BI and use that as a leverage in their career to stand out. So not only am I really great at being an accountant, I have the skills of building reports so I can communicate all of this information better. And so I think a great approach to take, if you're not just wanting to jump straight into being an analyst, is to find a way to merge that with other skills you have or other, jobs roles you can take on, and find ways to incorporate Power BI into that and use that as a way to just stand out.
It's funny that you should say that because I started in finance.
Yes, exactly. Right? You're a prime example of this. Like I said, all the best people I know.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was a dev in a past life, or a programmer, I should say. And, it was interesting going into a finance org and looking at the data. And then, I think it was the right place at the right time. Power BI came out and I was just super lucky.
And just, like I said, every role now has to interact with data in some form, whether it's I'm entering things into a tool like Dynamics, or maybe I'm doing surveys and I'm getting data back from those surveys. Everything has data now.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I love? I love, first of all, Excel and Power BI is just my favorite.
Yes.
My second and third favorite are Teams and Power BI. And I just love Azure Synapse and Power BI. I mean, the possibilities there are just exponential. And
you actually named one of the things that is great about working on Power BI is that we have so many connections with other products as well. So we're not siloed. We get to work with all these other teams and great products and people who are passionate about these other areas, and we can find ways to build up with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very similar to how we operate with our careers as well. We all, help each other and build our skills and support each other. Gosh. Okay. So you launched Power BI, with the team. Of course, it's a huge team.
Very big, very big. Definitely was not just me. Far from it. And I was there. I happened to be there.
You happened to be there, right? And then, the product came out. It became popular. We started the great community, with Miguel Martinez, Sandy.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, right? I remember going to all of the conferences.
Oh, yeah. So much fun.
It was fantastic, right? And hopefully we'll get there one day again. But and then, I was sad to see that you left for a while. I'm thinking, but this is like our Amanda. I was like, there's no Power BI without Amanda. That's how I felt. This is a personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's true for most people. But
nice. I identified with you, and actually in Will Thompson a lot. And also, Siva Harinath, who did the first dashboard in a day. So, why and what did you discover? How was that experience? Why did you make that decision? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I had decided because I joined Power BI or BI in general at Microsoft right out of college, and so I had been here for a while, and I just felt like I needed to try something new, learn some new skills. PM roles tend to be very different depending on what company you're working for. And so I thought it would be really good for my career to just try something new and see what else is out there. So I did leave Microsoft for a little bit, and I went and I worked on another team. But obviously, I still was very much, a family here. I had some of my best friends work on this team. I just loved the environment. And so I never completely disconnected, I would say.
Oh, God, no.
And so, and then eventually a role did open back up on Power BI that I felt like could push me in new ways. And so that's kind of what pulled me back. Obviously I miss my family, but there was also, I was trying to try new things and find new ways to grow my career and new skill sets as a PM.
Yeah.
And so when a role did finally open on Power BI that could also meet those needs, it was kind of perfect. I got to grow as a PM and come back to my family. So
that's fantastic. It's wonderful that, Microsoft's a great big company, but it's wonderful that you were able to find that new step, that new challenge, and kind of step out of your comfort zone by leaving and coming back shortly after, which was great. But, what's the difference? What did you find was different working outside of Microsoft versus Microsoft?
One of the things that really is different between the different companies is really how much you are involved with the community and how much you are involved with other aspects of building a product. So, there's obviously the parts of the product that all PMs do, like defining features and working with engineers and designers. But I think depending on what company you're working for, you can engage sometimes deeper in other areas like support and marketing, or you could be deeper as like a community person and really engaging there. And so depending on, I think, on where you work, you can kind of like pull these different levers of being a PM and go deeper depending on the company.
Okay, awesome. Now that you're here, you have a multitude of experience. Where are we going from here? Where do you think we're going from here?
Nowhere but up. I think it's a really great time, I think, to be learning Power BI, just because there's just so much happening at the company. And like I mentioned, we as one of the great things about Power BI is we can partner with all these different tools. And I think that's just going to get even more true. Power BI is showing up in more places related to Office. We're getting deeper with Synapse. There's just so many new ways that we're going to be able to leverage Power BI across the whole Microsoft stack.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to continue to grow. I think it's going to be a really fun ride.
The viewers would want to know, what is your favorite Power BI feature? I love goals.
This is hard as a PM because I want to say my own feature. Quick create.
So what was that?
So in Power BI, we have a set of features that we call quick create, and they let you basically get started really quickly. I'm looking at a table of data, and maybe I can just paste it into Power BI, and visuals are automatically generated for me. Or maybe I'm looking at a list in SharePoint, and I click the Power BI button, and I get a whole report based off of that list.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really great feature because it's one of those, I think, gateway features into the rest of Power BI.
Okay.
So, you don't have to already have these deep technical analyst skills to start using Power BI. You just need to have data, which we've already said everyone does.
Yeah.
And then you can just get started, and then you can start learning about the other parts of Power BI as you need to. So like, I love this report that was started for me, but I need to tweak this thing. Like I want it to be a different color or something.
Right.
So then you start exploring the formatting features, or what other charts do Power BI have? Can I make new columns? And then you might discover DAX. And so it's a really great way to slowly build yourself into the product instead of having to jump off a cliff and learn everything.
Okay, noted. Quick create. Here we go. Quick create. I'm writing it down. I know it exists. I've played with it a little bit, but not so much. So I think that's a great tip. Okay, any thoughts for Power BI women and joining our user group and volunteering?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to start getting involved. I'm always, it doesn't always appear that way, but I'm not a super social person naturally, so I have to kind of push myself. But every time I do, I'm glad that I do, because any way you can start to get involved, it just, becomes like a wave pushing you further in, and you start meeting new people and networking and finding new experiences. So just, even if you're a little nervous, just try and push yourself out of that comfort zone and jump in and just start. You have to start.
That's great advice, right? And people can start user groups within their company Because remember when we started, we had the internal
one.
Power BI gigs, and so you don't necessarily have to have like an external worldwide one. You could have one within your own little community.
Exactly.
Your group of friends.
Maybe your team. You start building Power BI within your team, and then you start pulling other people in from across the company, and then you can just build from there. Starting with little steps is always a lot easier than just trying to make that big jump into like, oh, I'm just going to start a whole new group from scratch. I mean, some people can do that, and that's great, but little steps, easier to mark progress.
Okay, cool. Well, so you heard it from Amanda. So join us at aka.ms, Power BI Women, and either join a user group or start your own. And if you need help, you can always contact us via Twitter or via the community. Yes. But Amanda, any final words of encouragement for us today? And of course, we value your time. We thank you so much for joining us today. But any other final thoughts?
Know that you're in the right place. You're doing the right things, you're learning the right skill set, and it's only going to benefit you from here. So just have confidence that you're doing the right thing.
Thank you so much today. It was, again, great seeing you in person. And, we all look forward to working together again in the future.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amanda, for sharing your story and thoughts of Power BI with us all.
Next up, a collection of learning sessions from our Power BI Women community.
We all know good data modeling is essential to effective communication in Power BI. So next up, we have Kelly Brockstra, who is an information management, business intelligence, and project management specialist with extensive data warehouse development experience, and who has a passion for understanding clients' needs to create the best solution achievable. Kelly's going to speak to us in this session about how different data modeling decisions affect your reports.
Hi, thanks for that awesome intro. Yes, I'm Kelly. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. I'm a mum, a spouse, a runner, a volunteer at a local youth group, and I spend most of my working time as a business intelligence solutions specialist. Today, I want to talk to you about data models and how to effectively communicate with the right model within Power BI so that you get the best communication out of that model. Now, when I say effective communication, I mean answering the business's questions quickly and accurately, making a model that everyone can understand, not just you. So firstly, I want to clarify, I'm not talking about this type of model. I'm talking about this type of model, a Power BI model. Now, for those of us that have been working in Power BI for quite a while, we'd all be very familiar with the flat file model. So you've got a single table, it's a connection to Excel or a connection to a source system, and all that's coming through is a single table. It's great. You don't need to create relationships. You don't need to worry about many-to-many or one-to-many cardinality. You don't need to worry about cross-filter directions. You have all the data there and away you go. Power BI compresses that data quite well, so the report performs. Everyone gets the data they need, and it's all wonderful. Unfortunately, more often than not, your boss or someone else from the business will come to you at some point and they'll want more. They always want more. They want you to add data from another spreadsheet or from another system. And after not too long, you'll have something that looks more like this. So where's the happy medium? The medium between the single flat table and the crazy, crazy, crazy star schema, which I hope nobody actually has in their environment. It's crazy. What we're actually aiming for is a star schema, and I hope most people have heard that term before. Now, before you go out and buy the book and read the whole thing, because it's very chunky, which, let's face it, no one really has time to do, let me give you a few basics. So a star schema looks like a star, like the one that we see here. The fact table is in the middle, and the fact table needs to represent a process or something in your business that has happened. Okay, not just the data that's coming through the system. It needs to actually model something that has happened, or a process or a workflow within your organization. It's actions, it's things that have occurred. And it includes with it numbers, things you can sum, aggregate, find the min and max of, do calculations on, that kind of thing. And the fact table also has within it links through to the dimensions. The dimensions are the points on your star. They're the nouns, they're the descriptions. They're what you filter things by, and they're what you tell your stories with. So they sit on the outside, and you can have as many of those as you need. Dimensions, most people kind of understand. Everyone puts their data in dimensions, and it all works. It's fact tables that I find people get more confused about. So just to clarify a few things and give you a few things to consider. Fact tables, you can have more than one fact table in a model. I quite often have conversations with people. In Power BI, they have one beautiful fact table that tries to do absolutely everything, and that's it. You can have multiple fact tables that complement each other. And each fact table should represent either a different process or a different action within the bigger process, or they can have different grains. So a good example would be a sales system, an invoice level grain, so where you have a line per invoice item, might have a customer ID, an invoice date, the number of things that were purchased, maybe something like that. That's one fact table. You might have a second fact table in your model that talks more to the products that were purchased on each of those invoices. So the grain for that would be the product line as opposed to the full invoice. So that's an example where you'd have two complementary fact tables that work really well together to describe an overall business process within your model. So you can always have more than one fact table within a star schema. Just make sure that you link your fact tables through dimensions. Don't try and create relationships from a fact table to a fact table. It tends to get a bit messier and not perform as well. But you can have multiple fact tables. The other thing that I do want to cover is there's actually 3 different types of fact tables. The one that we see most often, that we get from most systems nowadays, is a transactional fact table, where you have one line per transaction. So a sales item is a really good example, or a transaction might be a hire or a promotion in a HR system. It represents one line, and that line generally doesn't change. It comes through from your source system. Once it's in, it does not change. It's happened. We're not going to go back and change the order, change the number of items that were purchased. They've been purchased. They're done. So that's the transactional fact table. That's what we see most often. The second type of fact table, which does actually still have a big use, is an accumulating snapshot table. So this is where you're modelling a process or a workflow, and that particular item does certain things on certain days. So you can have different dates stored within your fact table to represent different days, and I'll show you an example shortly. The third example is a periodic snapshot, and that looks more at snapshotting what's happened at a specific point in time, where that point in time is a regular occurrence. So a good example is a bank statement. So the periodic snapshot would have a line for customer 12345, a statement date, maybe the 1st of January, and an opening balance and a closing balance. It then have a second line for customer 12345, the 1st of February for the statement date, and it'd have an opening balance and a closing balance. It gives you that ability to see the opening balance and closing balance really quickly without having to sum up the whole history of the transactions that could have happened in that system. But don't sum it together. Don't add all your closing balances for the year. You'll be rich, but it's not actually a true indication of what's happening. Now, I found a really nice image that sort of describes these from a book. That book's just down there. I've never really found the image online. So I took a photo. That's why it's not the greatest quality. But it's a good visual representation of the three types of fact tables: the discrete or transactional fact table, where things are single items; the evolving fact table, where something might move along, a process, an order, shipment, delivery, payment type process might have happened; and then a reoccurring fact table, where everything works on a very regular, reoccurring type basis. I don't have much time left. We're not here all day, so I'm not going to show you how to create the model with the star schema. I'm not going to show you how to change your existing model into a star schema, and I'm not going to talk much to how a lot of this is done in Power Query and how, or in your ETL process, and how you need to manipulate your data. What I do want to do, though, is talk through a couple more examples. So I've spoken a little bit to the sales system, which a lot of people have, so it tends to come up quite often in conversations. So a customer buys a product in store, and the store wants to know the most popular products, how much money they've made, what the markup was, which customers buy the most products, the time of day that's the busiest, those kinds of questions. So in that scenario, they're one-off events. They're events that happen and then nothing else happens afterwards. The customer very rarely goes in and returns the product, but that would be a different process. So you want a transactional fact table where you have one line for everything that's happened, whether that's a product line item or an invoice item, depends on your business's requirements. You then have dimensions of that around your customer, your store, your product. You'd have a date dimension, and you'd possibly even have a time dimension, which would be separate to your date dimension, and that would just list all the different times of the day, and that helps with analysis around what times of the day are busier, and you can combine that with the date and work out, you sell more on a Friday afternoon, for example. Put more staff on at that time. Make sure you've processed all of the shipments in so everything's on the shelf ready to go. Those kinds of things is the analysis that you can do with a transactional fact table with a separate date and time dimension. Another scenario, a HR system, for example, a person is hired, they're promoted, they leave your organisation. The manager wants to know things like turnover rate, different demographics around the people that work within the organisation, how long someone takes generally before they get promoted, what are their reasons for leaving, those kinds of things. So once again, you could do this as an evolving, as an accumulating snapshot fact table where a person is hired, they're promoted, they leave. But an accumulating snapshot doesn't give you a lot of room for they get promoted multiple times. Unless you've got a finite number of times someone can get promoted. The accumulating snapshot model doesn't work quite as well. But what does work, though, is the transactional fact table. It's just a little bit more difficult to do the calculations around how long has someone stayed in a position before they got promoted or before they left. So think about the kind of questions that your business is asking, and build the facts tables around what you need to answer. And this is a really good example of where you might have different types of fact tables. You might have a transactional fact table, one for hires, one for promotions, one for terminations, and then you might actually have an accumulating snapshot table that sort of just describes a summary of the history of that particular employee. The third scenario or example I sort of want to speak to is one I get quite frequently, which is an inventory or a stock analysis, or anything to do with the workflow, basically. But I'll use the stock example in this as we discuss this. So a stock item is ordered, it's received at the warehouse, it enters the warehouse, it's then purchased by a customer online, it's packaged, and then it's shipped out. So you can do that as and I'll show you some pictures. You can do that as an accumulating snapshot like this. So where you have the stock item and you have the dates sort of across the top, and you list out all the different dates, and then you can do a calculation of the number of days in each phase. Or you can have a transactional fact table, which is more of a, for this particular stock item, it hit the warehouse, it was ordered, it was received, it hit the warehouse, and these are the dates. So this is good to sort of, you don't need to go and update things. This just lists things out. But it does make it a little bit harder to do reporting. I can report on a single item and see what it does. But if I want to know how many items are currently in my warehouse, I need to search for everything that has a warehouse date of before today, or whatever date I'm looking at this report for. But then I've also got to join to things that haven't been purchased. So the DAX that I'd need here would be a lot more complicated. Whereas in my accumulating snapshot, it's quite easy to just filter and say, all I need to do is drop on count of my stock items and filter by where the warehouse date has already happened, but the purchase date hasn't. And that gives me the number of items I currently have in stock. I can still see which items have been in stock for the longest and can see all the dates associated with them. And I can drag and drop a lot more stuff. So the difference between the two models, this one is very much, I can just, drag things on. I can produce my reports and answer questions very quickly. The transactional fact table, I need to write DAX, and some of the DAX can get quite complicated because I'm trying to join on other items within the table that do relate but also don't relate. So there's a lot of remove filters and complexity in those DAX calculations. So I just wanted to sort of sum up. Thinking about what you're trying to model will really help you with what you're trying to build. So think about the business requirements. What are you trying to solve, and what questions are you actually being asked? And model real life business. Don't just model the source data that you got and go, that's the only way I can do it. You really want to make sure that you're modeling your real life scenarios so that you can answer the real life questions. Now, some of this advice should make your reports faster, smaller, and more scalable. Sometimes not the case, but that's kind of the idea. But more importantly, they make it a lot easier for you and for anyone else at your business to interpret the model, play with it, add their own visuals, add things to the visuals. You don't need to know complex DAX to get all that working. So that's what we're trying to achieve. I hope you've learned something today from this session about how to model your data a little bit better. Stick around for the next sessions. They look really interesting, and I can't wait. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Kelly, for sharing your insights into effective Power BI modeling techniques. Next up, we have the pleasure of hearing from Indira Bhandari. Indira is a 14-year-old student from Auckland, New Zealand. She is passionate about technology and won third place in a game development competition when she was 9 years old. Indira has also won second place for her Power BI data visualization and has presented in various Excel and Power BI meetups and New Star of Data conferences. In this session, she will share Power BI query tips for automating your data cleanup tasks.
Thank you, Deborah. Hi, I'm Indira Bhandari, and I am so glad to be presenting at the Power BI Women Summit. I'm very happy that I get to present at a platform that encourages women to work with technology. So a little bit about me. I'm Indira Bhandari, as I said, and I have always had a passion for technology ever since I was a kid. I'm 14 years old now, and I'm a student at Mount Albert Grammar School in Auckland, New Zealand. So last year in lockdown, I started my own YouTube channel called NZ Tech Girl. And in this channel, I post coding videos for kids, and I also post beginner Excel videos. Recently, in the school holidays, I have started teaching at Kids Tech NZ's coding for kids classes, which are absolutely free. And I felt like that was a great opportunity for me to build on my skills. Yeah, and I also started presenting at meetups and events like this Power BI Women Summit. And I started presenting at the start of last year, and I have really enjoyed that. So I think I'm going to keep going with that. And if you want to contact me in any way, my email is midhabandari@gmail.com. And my YouTube channel is NZ Tech Girl, so please don't forget to subscribe to that. And my LinkedIn is Indira Bhandari, so do check that out. So in today's session, I'm going to be talking about 3 tips that you can use to automate your data with Power Query in Power BI. So the first tip is going to be how to extract data from folders and automate it. Next, we're going to learn how to apply a dynamic filter. And finally, we're going to learn how to create a date from the name of an Excel file. So my first tip is going to be how to insert folder data into Power Query and what you need to do in Power Query in order for us to automate our folder data. Okay, so first we go into Power BI and we go to Get Data and we're looking for folder. Now, if you don't have folder in there, then you go More. And when this pops up, you click on Folder and go Connect. And go Browse, and then my files are in videos. So I'm going to click Videos and Excel files. Yeah. Okay. So once I click OK, so this is going to pop up. I have sales data for 2017, 2018, 2019. I'm going to go Combine and Transform. So this is going to open up in Power Query Editor. So once it opens like this, I'm going to click Sheet 1 because that's where all my data is and it's all been combined together. This data is really messed up. It has its sales in supermarkets in Myanmar. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to fix my data in Power Query once it opens. Okay, so this is my data, and over here is the Queries tab that Power Query Editor has for us. So I'm going to start editing my data and transform sample file. Now, see, as you can see, the headers are kind of messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into Promote Headers in Applied Steps and X on that. And then I'm going to go to Transform and transpose this data. So once I transpose this, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to select the first 2 columns and right click, and I'm going to go Merge Columns. Yeah, so once I merge the columns, the separator is going to be space because that is what's in between my 2 columns, and then it's merged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose this, and it's back together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my first row as headers. So click on that little table icon and click on Use First Row as Headers. So now that we've fixed up the titles, I'm going to go to the end and it says Gender and Type. Now I want to split this. So what I need to do that is I can just right click on that and where it says Split Columns by Delimiter. So when I click Delimiter, then it has space. That is my delimiter because that's what's separating both of them. So I'm going to go OK. And then here we have both our gender and our type separated. Gender, and I'm just going to rename them to gender and type. Yeah. So now that I've fixed that, what I want to do is I want to multiply the total and the unit price together. So to do that, I'm just going to select my unit price and my total. And then I'm going to go into Add Column. Yeah, and once I go on the Add Column tab, it says Standard and click on Multiply. When I do that, it does this for me. And now what I want to do is I want to round it. So I go into Rounding and click Round ... And I want to round it to 2 decimal places. So I'll just type in 2. So now that I've rounded it, it creates an extra column for the rounded. And I'm going to delete the multiplication and just rename this to total. So once I've done that, that's all I need to clean up for the data. So I'm just going to go, I want to add in another column. So I'm going to go to Custom Column, and the function the formula that I'm going to use is date.year. And then I'm just going to delete the date that I've already written. Yeah. And then I'm going to open bracket. And then date sold. And so you close the bracket and make sure there are no syntax errors and go okay. And so now it's created a year column for us. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename it to year. And now that we've fixed up our data, remember we've been working in the transform sample file. And we go to the actual file, it says it's an error. So what I need to do is I just need to click the X, and then I'm going to delete source name. And this is what my data looks like. So now that I'm ready, I'm just going to close and apply. So yep, close and apply. So now our data has been loaded. What I need to do is I'm going to get a clustered bar chart. So just click on it, and it should appear on your screen. So now I'm going to put my total and values of the bar chart, and then I'm going to take my year and put it into axis. So now this is what my data looks like. Right. So now that my data looks like this, if I want to automate it, I'm going to go into my Excel files, and in another file, I have got sales 2020. Now, sales 2020 is not in there, so I'm just going to copy this, go back into videos and go into Excel files, and I'm going to paste it over here. And now let's see if we refresh our visualization. Let's see if it pops up on the bar chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on it, click refresh. Once I refresh it, there, our extra supermarket sales file has been added. Right, so that's how you automate data by inserting folder data. So my second tip is going to be applying a dynamic filter onto your data in order to make it easier for us to load it onto Power BI. First, we go into Get Data and More, and we're going to go back into the folder. Yeah, so once I do that, click Folder and go Connect. And then again, I'm using the same data, so it's in videos. I go Excel files, okay. So now that I've done that, it opens up like this. Now I also have the extra 20 in here too. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go transform data. So once I do that, it opens up in Power Query Editor. Now what I'm trying to do is, so where it says folder.files, this is the file name. So now I'm going to scroll right to the end, to where it says date created. So now what I want to see is like what was the most recent file that I opened. So to do that, I just need to click on the filter and then go into date/time filters and then is latest. So once I click on that, you can see the most recent file that I've opened. And what you can also do is not only the latest, but you can also see many other things that you can do. You can go in the next is earliest, and there are many other things that you can also do apart from applying that filter. So that's all on applying a dynamic filter. So my final tip is going to be how to create a date with the name of an Excel file in order to make loading our data onto Power BI easier. By doing this, there are a lot of formulas in here, so just bear that in mind. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that XLSX off of the sales. So as you can see, I'm using the same data. So to do that, first I need to split the column. So I'm going to right-click, split column, and by delimiter. I'm going to go space because I'm trying to get the sales and the 2017 separated. So I'm going to go leftmost delimiter. Okay, and so see, I've split up the sales and the 2017.xlsx. So if I want to remove the xlsx, I'm going to go into custom column. So add column, custom column, and I'm going to rename this column to date. Now, the formula that I'm going to use is text.replace. Yeah, and then I'm going to click on that and get rid of the text. Right, and then I'm going to open bracket and name. Yeah, so mine's name 2. because name was one is sales, and we don't want sales. We want to work with the 2017, 2018, 2019 SLXX. So and then quotation marks SX, and then comma, and then quotation marks again, close the bracket, make sure there are no syntax errors. And here we are. It's created a date column for us. Now, what I want to do is I want the date as a number. So for example, for January 1st. So what I'm going to do is the formula for this is going to be hashtag date. And then I'm going to open bracket. And then I'm going to type in number dot from. That's my next formula. And then after that, I'm going to type another open bracket and then tick start replace again. Yeah, so once I do that, I'm going to go back to the end. And then I'm going to close the bracket. And then I'm going to remove put in a bracket where it says name. Okay, so make sure there are no syntax errors. Okay, now you can do this too, but I want my January in too. So to do that, I'm just going to go comma 1, and then close the bracket again. So, and then remove the bracket after name.to. So make sure there are no syntax errors. Go okay, and as you can see now, we've created a date column with the number of the year and the month. Now that comes to the end of our session. Thank you so much for listening to this. And I'd also really like to thank Power BI Women's Summit for giving me this opportunity to speak here. I hope everyone found my 3 tips helpful. And if you want to see more of my content, then please do check out my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me through email or LinkedIn. Thank you again.
Thank you for sharing methods for automating our data import tasks with Power Query Medha.
I am Matangi Ramanathan, and I Power BI.
Hi, I'm Kelly Brockstra, and I Power BI.
My name is Indira Bhandari, and I Power BI.
Hi, I'm Dr. Georgette Fraser-Moore, and I Power BI.
Hi, I'm Amanda Rivera, and I Power BI.
I'm Indira Bhandari, and I Power BI.
I'm Jonathan Lightfoot, and I Power BI.
Hello, I'm Lucrecia Krause, and I Power BI.
I'm Deborah Jones, and I Power BI.
Hi, I'm Rupali Jain, and I Power BI.
My name's Dan Ray, and I Power BI.
Hello, I'm Ana Maria Bisbe York, and I Power BI.
I'm Belinda Allen, and I Power BI.
Next up, we have Lucrecia Krause, who will be presenting business architecture using Power BI. Lucrecia is an experienced technology professional. She started her career in programming, then moved into project management, program management, business analysis, business architecture, and improvement initiatives with Hewlett-Packard. Lucrecia studied computer science, has an MBA and postgraduate in strategic quality management. She's very passionate about process design, improvements, and data for decision-making. Can't wait to hear from you, Lucrecia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here at the Power BI Women Summit. I'm going to be talking about business architecture and how we can implement it using Power BI. My name is Lucrecia Krause. I manage a group of business analysts at the University of Central Florida. I'm going to start defining what is business architecture. Business architecture is a discipline that represents a holistic, multidimensional business view of capabilities, the end-to-end delivery, information and organizational structure, and how this relationship among business views and strategies, products, policies, initiatives, and stakeholders. Business architecture, this slide, the source is Wikipedia. What business architecture helps organization is to answer different business questions. How the organization implements strategies, and then the business architecture is going to help us identify who is implementing the strategy, where, why, what, how, how well we are doing in the business, when, and the whys. What I'm going to be presenting is 3 business architecture activities that we can implement using Power BI. But we can get very creative. It's a lot of visuals, and it's not only 3. We can implement a lot of the business architecture using Power BI. So the first one that I'm going to be covering is the who. When we are trying to answer the who is in the business, is who is doing the work question, the best place to start is with the organizational chart. These are the charts that we see that are embedded into Office 365. They in other organizations they use Visio or other visuals. The nice thing that if we do it in Power BI is that we can apply the visuals as we are peeling other layers of the organization. The first one that we are going to be exploring is the when trying to answer the who is doing the work question, the best place to start is with the organizational chart. For this one, what we need is to import the data file that contains the employee information. In my case, I did it with Excel, but with all the plugins, and we can pick from any source. What is important is that we have the employee ID, the name, the job title, and something that is really important is the manager. So that way we are reflecting the hierarchy to who is the employee reporting to. So I have here a very simple example that it has the employee name, the title, the department, manager, and the city. What you see that is important for this particular org chart, as I was saying, is the hierarchy. So we have the CIO, and then we have the department manager or director that is reporting to the CIO, and then we have other employees that are reporting to the manager. Here is the visual that I'm using is the org chart by MAQ. This is a free chart that you can import in Power BI. Just search by org chart, and then you import the visual you selected, and then you are going to select the employee ID. Then you are going to assign the manager. That's the parent ID is going to be the manager, and then you can have by job level or by city, or you can have different sub-levels or groups, and this is how it's going to look like. And then we can also add filters, and we can slice the information in different views. The second one is the how. When we are trying to answer the how question, how the work is performed, the process view in Power BI works really, really well. The process mining in Power BI let us view the organizational details on how the work is done. The nice thing with the process mining is that usually we have a process that is in like Visio, but we don't know if all the steps are being followed. With the process mining, the nice thing is that we can bring a log file, and then we see the exact steps and everything that is happening. Usually, organizations have their process in
let's say Visio. With Visio, you have how the process is designed to be. But the nice thing, if we analyze the data with actual logs using the process mining, is going to let us see the exact flow of how everything is being done. And I'm going to show you. So in this one, I import the PathNow process mining visual is also free. For this one, we will need log file with activity, who is performing the activity, and at a minimum, a start and end time stamp. And then we select the PathNow process mining visual. From here, we are going to have a case ID. Then we have an event, and then we are going to, in this case, I'm ordering by month. And this is how the process map is drawn for us. And this is not a process of how we are designing it, but this is the actual, how the process is really happening. And if you see in this one, we are seeing that the process for some cases are starting at the very beginning, but then we have others that are starting in a different phase. So they are jumping the initial activities, and then we have a couple of variants. It's a very nice view because we can identify why is that we are having these variants, how we can improve it, or if it's something that is acceptable. But it's really handy to be able to see the process as is, so we can compare if it's really performing the way that we were intending to have the process. And then the last one that I'm going to be showing is the where. When we are trying to answer the where question, Power BI has many map visualization options that can help us the where our customers, employees, vendors, or suppliers are located. This extra layer of adding the location, Power BI is really powerful. For this particular visual, we need a file that, in this case, I'm doing employee location, but as I was saying, it can be anything that we want to map. It can be customers, vendors, employees. So in this particular case, I have a log that it contains the employee location, city, and the city and county, but you can have a city and country. You can the only thing that I advise is for the cities, we need to make sure that if it's duplicate cities, we need to make sure that we clean the data, because if it's the same city in one country and in another country, it can map the wrong city. So we just need to be careful how we are cleaning the data. The visualization that I selected is the one that is called the field map. Is the one that looks like this. This one is a standard visualization in Power BI. So here I have employee ID, the job level, the start date, and the employee location. And then from here, you just map the fields in location, employee location, and then this is how it looks. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So just to recap, we review 3 visuals that we can use to implement the business architecture. The first one is the organizational chart. For this one, we use the organizational chart by MAQ software. Then the next one, it was the process visual, and this one is the PathNow process mining. And then the last one, it was the visual for the maps, the field map. And this one is a visual that is already part of Power BI. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. My LinkedIn is Lucrecia, last name Krause. Lucrecia Krause. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you for your session on business architecture in Power BI, Lucrecia. Joining us now is Anna Maria Bisbay York. She's a Microsoft MVP with more than 30 years experience as a consultant. She specializes in business intelligence and data analysis. Anna Maria speaks at many Power Platform events and is the co-leader of the Power Platform Madrid Meetup and Women for Technical Talk groups. In this session, Anna Maria will share methods for using Power Query to combine queries in order to create the perfect solution for the optimal tabular model.
Hello, thanks for coming to my session. I want to thank the Power BI Women Summit team for having me and the volunteers for their help. I'm very happy to be here today, ready to talk about cleaning and reshaping data with Power Query. It is one of the best parts of this designing and delivering analytical reports with Power BI. Let's improve the tabular model by combining queries. I'm Ana Maria Bisbay, data analyst, BI trainer and consultant, Microsoft partner in Power BI, data platform MVP, and LinkedIn learning trainer in Spanish. I'm a co-leader of Power Platform Madrid Meetup and the Women for Technical Talks initiative. This session will look at the importance of query combining. We will demonstrate several scenarios in which combining queries could be the perfect solution for the optimal tabular model. The first reason for combining queries is to identify model entities and attributes. For example, we have several sources with the same structure. Here we have January, February, and March. The solution here is to append because they represent the same entity, for example, sales. In this another case, we have snowflake schema, and some attributes are in the different table. The best way to save the tabular model is to merge queries and to join columns in one query. Another reason for using merging is to take care of the design of the fact table. They're a wide, poor designed fact table and a dimension table without the index columns. The best way to save the tabular model here and take care of the fact table will be to add an index column to the dimension table, and then, of course, to combine queries by more than one column. And at the end, we need to do some cleansing. The third reason could be to solve data quality requirements because of the inconsistency of the data. In this case, we have two tables. The fact tables has the values of the projects, and in this case, we have just one project, and this project isn't in the dimension table, and this project number 4 and number 5 isn't present at the fact tables. So we have two tables with some inconsistent data. The solution here will be to combine queries using an anti-left join condition. The result will be the rows from the project catalog that do not match the sales tables. Okay, let's do it. We are going to the demo. Okay, now we are looking at Power Query. Power Query is a Windows in Power BI. Okay, let's start. Here we have the first example. We will add the three information we have in our Excel workbook. That's okay. And now we will find here. I have sources. Okay, our monthly sales. Okay, first Excel. Second, the root of my file, and then I will select 3 months here. The structure is the same, so it's okay. And now the solution will be append all these 3 queries together. Here we have append queries. I will append queries as new for join them all together because they represent the same fact table. So January, February, and March, I will reorganize. Okay, it's okay, and it's done. So we have all the information in, for example, our sales query. Now we need to disable load, disable, and disable. We have another approach here. For example, if we connect to the same file, to the monthly sales, the second idea could be connect to the file itself, not to the month. Here we can transform data. And in this case, we have all the information for each month. Looking at this column, at the data column, we have all the information, and the solution here could be choose columns, rid of the rest of the columns. Just take this one because here we have the information we need, and then to expand. We need to do some transformation here for cleansing, and for example, filtering, and that's all. The last transformation will be detect data type. So we can use one approach or other, but the idea is if we have several sources with the same information that represents just one entity, we need to join them. In this case, we need to append them and to define just one entity for all the cells together. In this another example, we have the information from customers, and the problem is that the information from country and city are located in another table, in a different table. But the attribute country gives me the information about the customers. Is the same attribute, the same role as any of these attributes I have in the customer table. So the solution here could be combined columns, of course, but in this case, merge queries. That means I will remain all the columns from customer and add the columns from geography. Let's do it. Merge queries as new. If I want to create another queries, this is an option. And in this case, I could select customer and then geography list. And in this case, we can select the columns. So the first, we need to select the tables or queries, customers and geography list. Second, we need to select the columns for the join. And at the end, we need to select the join key. So in this case, left outer, that means all the rows and all the columns from customer and all the matching columns from geography. Okay, that's okay. And now we have one more. This is my final customer table. Okay, I could find another name here. And we have all the columns from customer, and at the end, we have one more column that contains table in each row. I want to show you. This is the table for the first row, the second row, and so on. We need to expand this information and to take just country and city. And in this case, country and city will be added to my customer information, and all the attributes will be together in the same place. We have one entity, and all the attributes for these entities are located together, and this is the best solution in this case. And we guarantee the star schema model. The only transformation we need here is to rid of these columns, this column geography key, because we do not need anymore. So remove this column, and that's all. That's okay. This is from Snowflake to star schema. Okay, let's see another example. In this case, we have our fact table poorly designed. We have these columns, the text columns in the fact table. This is a bad idea. So, okay, if we look at the catalog, in the catalog we have not an index column, so it's difficult to create the match point here. Okay, the first task that we need to do is to guarantee that we have removed duplicates, because here we don't we are not allowed to have duplicates. So, and then add columns, index columns from 0 is the same. And now we have an index, and we have one number that it's able to define all the attributes we have in the product catalog. Okay, so the solution here is to add this index to my fact table. So let's do in the merge queries. In this case, I will merge inside the same query, catalog cells. I will merge with catalog. No, with catalog. Okay. So, and the difference here is that we are able to select more than one column. The only point is that we need to guarantee that they are selecting using the same order. So product is the first. In this case, product is the first and country is the second one. So we have the same order for each queries here. And the join kind is the same, so no problem. Okay. And as we can see here, we have again one column with a table. All the information from this table we can see in Mexico and table. That's all. And we'll expand, and the only column we will took from the catalog will be the index. That means whenever I use Ring and Mexico, I will have the index 1. That is my idea. It's okay. And the last transformation here will be the cleansing. These columns aren't necessary anymore in my fact table, and I could remove them, and now we have date, quantity, and index. And index will be the column that guarantee the relationship with my dimension table. So we are looking at the fact table. We are taking care from our fact table. And the last example here, it's related to data quality. We have some inconsistent data here. In this case, we have projects. These projects, the fourth and fifth project, this one and this one, they aren't in the sales table, and the opposite. In the sales table, we have one project, and here we have the referential integrity. It's broken between the tables because we are talking about one project, and this project isn't present in our catalog of projects. So the solution here will be for looking at the inconsistent data would be, of course, again, merge queries. And in this case, I will merge queries. And in this case, it's better merge queries as new. Okay, and now we will have project cells, project catalog, but the idea here will be select ID project here and here. Okay, queries, columns to join, and change the column, the jointing, because we need to select anti rows, left anti. That means I will have only the elements, the rows that are in the first table and not in the second. That's the idea. And that's okay. And now this is the result. Here we have one project in our sales table that is not matching. There is not information about this project in our catalog. We are able to do the other approach. So we can do, for example, from project, merge queries as new. And this way we are able to find all the information that we have in our project catalog that have not representation, that is not matching, do not match to the sales table. So that is a few examples of query combining. Our conclusion in this session could be: combining queries could be the perfect solution for the optimal tabular model for several tasks that we are able to do, like identify entities, respect the star model design, protect the fact table, work with role-playing dimensions, do the data quality tags, or combining files. And that's all. It was my pleasure. Enjoy the event, Power BI Women Summit.
Since most of a data analyst's time is spent cleaning and reshaping data, I'm sure this session will help them save time in creating the optimal tabular model. Thank you for sharing, Anna Maria. Ready to take your Power BI reports to the next level? Let's tune in to listen to Indira Bhandari, a Microsoft Data Platform MVP from New Zealand. She has a master's degree in statistics and is passionate about data, analytics, and artificial intelligence. She is a BI and SQL lead, an international speaker, mentor, and part-time trainer with over 15 years of experience in designing and developing data warehouses and analytical solutions.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you for having me in the Power BI Women Summit. Hi, everyone. My name is Indira Bhandari, and in this session, I would like to share a few tips to take your Power BI reports to that next level. In my opinion, there are certain scenarios where you can go above and beyond as a Power BI developer and push your users' experience to the next level using some simple tricks. First of all, I would like to share about myself. My tech journey started in New Zealand way back in 2002, where I started as an information analyst and played various roles like CRM developer, BI developer, and also senior systems analyst. And from 2015 onwards, I started attending meetups, and then I started giving back to the community by doing some presentations and speaking at user groups and conferences, and also ended up as a co-organizer for a couple of meetups in Auckland, which is Auckland Artificial Intelligence Meetup and Auckland Power BI Meetup. In my pastime, I have a passion for teaching kids all about technology, and that has resulted in me setting up a Kids Tech Charitable Trust last year, for which I am the director. And now I'm working as a senior data consultant in Datacom. Now let's look at today's agenda. I'm going to cover 3 tips: how to create small multiples, and how you can take your charts to that next level using images. And also, I'm going to show you how to create a slicer panel. So let's get started. Here I have a chart showing the revenue by year. This shows that the revenue is increasing. I want to understand whether this pattern is similar to the different manufacturers. So I go and add the manufacturer to the legend. Now this looks colorful, but does it make any sense when we look at it? It has too many bars and too many colors. The users will find it harder to come to any conclusions by looking at these kind of visuals, as this is not simple to understand, and also it is not easy. Another way we can do is to create copies of the same visual and filter each of them out by each manufacturer. So I am creating copies. I have created 4 copies, and then I'm filtering each one by each of the manufacturers, and also changing the title. I changed this, the first one's title, and then formatted that to center the title, and then copied the format to all the 4 visuals. copy the format, all the 4 visuals, and then you can see how high maintenance this is if we want to change any visuals, because we have to change all the copies. So if you have 10 manufacturers, you will be doing 10 changes every time there is some change. So this won't work. So I'm going to delete the copies, and this is when we can use the small multiples feature that is there in the charts. This is available in all the line, area, bar, and column charts. So I'm going to drag the manufacturer to small multiples field, and it automatically creates the multiples. Now, since I had the first filter for the one manufacturer, I'll clear that, and then you can see that it automatically created small charts by manufacturer. And we can copy, we can create, format each of them. So here you can see the small multiple title there, and also you can see the grid layout, and you can use all the format features in that. First of all, I need to change the title because it's not just for one. So the main title is there at the top as revenue by year, and then you can go to the grid layout. You can format the small multiple tile, use the formatting if you want to increase the size and also center. I'm going to go to the grid layout and change the, you can change the rows and columns. I'm going to change it to two rows, and you can change it to 3 columns as well. And also, if you want, you can change the background color to something nice. Yeah, I prefer gray, so I'm just going to change it to gray. And also you can sort the multiples by manufacturer so that you can do a ascending or descending order. Now, for example, if you want to create small multiples and take it to the next level by dynamically choosing your categories. Let's say I want to see the revenue by year by manufacturer, country, and product category. We can achieve this by creating a disconnected table and a measure. So this disconnected table should contain all of the distinct values of the categories. So what this disconnected table has is the selection type. We are choosing 3: manufacturer type, country type, and product category. And it has all the values for each of these categories. Once that is done, then you create a new measure, which is revenue dynamic category that I have created. Here I have created a variable called selected cat, which gets the selected value of the selected type. And if there is nothing, then it defaults to manufacturer type. And there is a switch statement here. If you select manufacturer type, then it gets the it uses the treat as function, which applies the result of a table expression as it filters to columns from an unrelated table, because this table will be disconnected. And now here I'm using that in a slicer with the selection type. If you click on country, this should change. Now it is not changing because I didn't change the measure into the values. So I'm now going to add measure into the values and remove the revenue, regular revenue. And now if you choose the manufacturer type, it is showing by manufacturer. If you choose the country type, it is showing by country. And if you choose product category, it is showing by product category. So that is the small multiples. Okay, Now we are going to do the second demo of using an image in the axis. Now let's look at this Power BI file where I have count of Facebook reactions by reaction type. You have these reactions in Facebook: like, smile, love, wow, and sad and angry. So how can you achieve this? What I want to display is, for like, I want to display some icons instead of these words. So how can you achieve this? Let us see. So in the model, what I have is, I have the Facebook reactions as a reaction type and the number of counts. And what also I have is, I have got a unicare code by reaction type. So if it is smile, the unicare code is 128578. Like that, I got from the internet, I got these unicare codes. And these unicare codes, I'm going to create a new column which uses this unicode in the unicare function. So the reaction type equals unicare. I'm using the unicare function and then passing this unicode to that function. And that's how I have created my icons here. Now what I will do is, I'll go back to my visualization and just use that particular reaction type in the axis. So this is the reaction type. I'm going to use that in the axis. Oh, this is the reaction type. So see, you can use these icons in the axis. So you can take your reports to the next level by doing that. So this finishes my second demo. And now for our final demo of creating a slicer panel. So in order to do the slicer panel, what I want to do is, I'm going to add a shape here, a rectangle shape with country slicer and some other slicer. Let's go and click on the country slice on the shape, and I'm just going to adjust it a bit like a panel, and I'm just going to format it a wee bit. I don't like the green color, so I'm just going to go with a sort of a yellowish color. And on the panel, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add a slicer, and I will have country there. And I'll format the country slicer to the color to something different. So background on, and then, yeah, I think that should be fine. I'll just increase the text size a bit. So items text size is, and then I'm going to change the color of the item, the text, to black. Yeah, that's a bit more prominent. And also I will have a ear slicer. Ear. And I'll just copy paste this slicer because I want the okay, I'll go and add another slicer here. Click on the outside and go to the visual pane and add a slicer, and In that, I will add the year. And change that to copy format, and then format this one and to a list. So I have all the years. Okay, so this is our slicer panel. And also I need couple of arrows here. So I will add again, go into the shapes and add my arrows. So I will add one arrow here and rotate it. This doesn't look that great, but let us use that. I'm going to rotate this one to 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees. And put it here and copy the same thing and then copy this and paste it somewhere outside. And then I'll rotate that to 180 degrees. I think 180 degrees should be fine. 180 or 270. Oh, no, 270 it should be. So 270 degrees. So if you click on, now because we are hiding this one, let's group the visuals. So in order to do that, first what we need to do is go to view and click on, we need these two panels, selection panel and the bookmarks panel. And now we can close the fields and the format panels. Now what we need to do is, if I click on here, that is the left arrow. So I'm just going to name this so that it's easier. Left arrow. And this one is right arrow. And this is a country slicer. This is year slicer. Year. This is country slicer. And this one is the rectangle shape. So the way we can achieve the slicer panel is, first we need to group these visuals. So one, control click, and then shift will work. So my mouse is playing up, so I'm using my hand. At least touch screen is working. Okay, so now I'm going to group them. So go to view and format and group. So now you can you can rename this group to slicer panel. Slicer panel. And this is the left arrow. And I want the right arrow to be part of this. So I'll just put the arrows at the top for now. the way you order is the way you can see that. So I want the right arrow also to be part of the slicer panel group. So I just click that again and then put it inside the group. So shift and put it inside the group. So format and then group. So this is my group, and left arrow will be on itself. Now we can achieve the slicer panel movements using bookmarks. So I'm going to add 2 bookmarks, one for opening the slicer and the other for closing the slicer. So first one is, I will move this. Okay, I think, yeah, I will, yeah. Left one is again at the top. I'm arranging that at the top. So left one, when you click on the left, the slicer panel should close, and when you click on the right, the slicer panel should open. So let me create the bookmarks. So before creating the bookmark, when I want to hide the group 1 slicer, and that is the arrow, and okay, so this is one of the bookmarks that I want to, this is one of the view that I want to show. So I'm going to add a bookmark now. And when I add the bookmark, I'm going to add the bookmark, add the bookmark. Okay, so this bookmark is closed slicer. I'm going to rename that. And one thing that you need to remember to do is click on the ... and remove the data part of the slice of the options. And that will be the closed slicer. And the other one is when the slicer is open, you need to hide the left arrow. So what we need to do is hide the left arrow and unhide the group, and that will be the that will be another view. So what we can do is add another bookmark. I hit on add. Yeah, and then I'm going to rename the bookmark now to open the open slicer. And again, remove the data part from here, because we don't want the bookmark to have the data to be stored. So now now our bookmarks are ready, so we can assign the bookmarks now. So what we need to do is go to the left arrow, assign the bookmarks. Now what we need to do is just go to the left arrow here, close slicer. Now go to the left arrow and assign the bookmark as in the format pane, assign the bookmark as action as open bookmark. So drop down and action on and bookmark page, and you can give open slicer. So once you do that, if you go to the bookmark itself, now go to the bookmark itself, and then if you control click, then it will open the slicer. The other one that we need to do is another bookmark is you click on the right arrow and For the right arrow, you need to add an action of closing the bookmark. So again, add an action, close the bookmark. So type is bookmark and close slicer. That way you can open the bookmark and close the bookmark. So when you control click on this, it will go. And then when you control click on this arrow, the bookmark will open. The slicer panel will open. So that is the that is the demo for the slicer panel. Hope you have enjoyed all these 3 tips, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing ways we can take our Power BI reports to the next level, Indira.
Did you learn something from these learning sessions? I certainly did. Thank you so much to our community of Power BI women for sharing their knowledge. Advocates and allies can be instrumental towards achieving gender parity in technology. Let's listen to our allies share how they support women in tech.
Next, we'll hear from Jonathan Lightfoot, a United States Navy veteran, president of Symbiont Inc., an information technology firm, and an author of 3 books on Microsoft technologies. In this session, he will share ways men can support women in tech every day.
Thank you, Deborah, for introducing me. As Deborah said, my name is Jonathan Lightfoot, and my session for the Power BI Women's Summit is how men can be allies to women in IT. I have to say that I'm very excited to give this presentation because this is tips and tricks and techniques, if you will, that I've used in my career here in IT. One of my favorite quotes is by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it reads, "Women's rights are an essential part of the overall human rights agenda. Trained on equal dignity and ability to live in freedom, all people should enjoy." This is a saying that I heard years ago, and when I thought about it, it was actually presented to me by my sister. She was studying women's studies in college, and she came across this quote and shared it with me, and we talked about it. And one thing that I've learned in IT and in my career is that women's rights are not just about women's rights. It's about the rights of humans overall. If we can't treat each other with dignity and equity, then how on earth is this world going to go any further? And that's been a guide stone, if you will, in my entire career. And I hope this session, I'll be able to share, like I said, my tips, tricks, and techniques that I've used to make sure that I'm an ally and that I'm advocating and working to help women in the workplace, especially in IT. So for a quick introduction, as Deborah said, my name is Jonathan Lightfoot. I've spent over 30 years in IT. I know on the site it says 20 because I'm trying not to feel too old, if you will. But I started my IT career professionally in the United States Navy, and I've spent the last 20 or so years working in corporate and government environments. I'm also the author of Microsoft SharePoint Plain and Simple series of books, which later on in the presentation, I will go over some things I did when I was writing those books to make sure that I was promoting women in the IT space, especially around the Microsoft platform. I'm currently running my family's 36-year-old IT contracting company called Symbiont. It's been a great pleasure after working for many years in other organizations. It's great to come home, if you will, and take on the reins, if you will, for my father, who took over for my grandfather. So let's just jump right into it. You know, my first tip that I would give to men watching this presentation, or that you might want to talk to your male colleagues and coworkers, is understanding of privilege. And I came across a little definition around privilege that really resonated with me. And that was, privilege is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group and not others. This resonates with me because in my time in IT and in the workplace, there have been times where I've been in a room and there's been no women. And we're talking about promotions, or we're talking about, you know, who's going to be on a project or who's going to lead a project. And it's always was around, you know, men referring other men. And I tend to be the one that speaks up and says, you know, what about Mary Jo? What about Elizabeth? what about these other candidates who are not male? And sometimes I do get some people look at me funny or things like that. But again, because I'm in the room, because I'm able to have a say in processes and assignments and what have you, it's vitally important that I make sure that I'm advocating for women in my workplace as well. So my biggest tip on that one is men, we're in the rooms and the discussions, and we need to speak up. We need to make sure that we're not just talking about other men, and making sure that we are being fair and equitable and bringing women into the conversation as well, and making sure that they get opportunities that are not sometimes formally advertised. My second tip, gender inequality has more than one face. Sexism is often intersectional and requires different levels of awareness and action to effectively address it. A little later on, I'm going to talk about another tip. But, when we think about gender inequality, some people try to think about the big ones, right? Pay, promotion, advancement, hiring even. But we also have to realize that there are other slights that are happening in the workplace as well. And another tip, I'll go more into detail on that. But we also have to realize that we have to be cognizant and aware of our environment. As I talk to other male colleagues, I'll say, it's not good enough just to float through. And if it doesn't affect you, to think, oh, well, it must be fine. No, it's really getting in, working with your colleagues, especially your women coworkers and colleagues, and understanding where their biases are being used against them, and also where they're not given the opportunities or maybe even not even recognized at all. But again, you have to always keep in mind that this is a bigger problem than just the big three, as I call them, of pay, hiring, and advancement. During my time in IT in corporate, I have had the pleasure of influencing my organization's hiring, compensation, and promotion processes. In my current role, running my family's company, I have a really direct role in that. And whenever we are talking about, hiring or paying someone or promoting anyone, I tend to say, let's bring everybody into the bucket. And if we're going to take anyone out, there must be a really good reason of why we're taking that person out, or why we're not considering that person for that role, be it a male or female. But also I look at women specifically, because I do know in IT, I realize that there is a discrepancy, if you will, or inequality that happens in these different areas and all. So one thing that I live by is I don't just raise the awareness, but I also actively advocate for women to be hired, paid, and promoted equally. And that does mean sometimes in my career, I've had to say, you know what? That promotion isn't meant for me. It's meant for this other person, and be very happy to do that. And I can also say in my career that I've had many women, colleagues of mine, who've stepped back for me and said, hey, Jonathan, you need to take this on, or you should be the one getting that. And again, raising that awareness is not enough. We have to also make sure we're advocating and pushing to ensure that we're helping our women colleagues out and making sure they're getting their just desserts, as it were. Tip number 4, fair workplace policies is a must. It's not a matter of just saying, that's a policy that's only for women, or that's a policy or procedure that's going to just affect a certain group. We have to make sure that when we are looking at our policies and even procedures, that we're making sure that we are looking at things like, is the compensation fair and equitable? Flexible hour policies, it used to upset me whenever I remembered people would say, hey, so-and-so is taking maternity leave, and they would look down on that. Because the way I looked at that was, well, wait a second, there is also something called paternity leave. So men should be taking that as well. And also if somebody needs flexible hours because they have to, either drop off a child or take care of a sick one, or leave early because they're doing those activities, that's a policy that's in place. It should not be looked down upon because somebody uses it. And notice I didn't say take advantage of it. I said use it. It is a policy that's there. The company has said that it needs to be there. So therefore, hey, what's wrong with it? Also, working from home, with this post-COVID world, working from home is the daily norm now for most of us and all. However, sometimes that we've learned, and actually it's not even sometimes anymore, we've learned a lot of positions who we thought were meant to be in person. You had to be in the office. We found out that's not so true. And it's interesting that people for years before COVID were even advocating and saying that. However, it was always looked down upon. Also, back to maternity and paternity leave, organizations, we need to make sure that we're making sure that they're generous, that we're not rushing people or making them feel bad because, when they have either a newborn or they've adopted a child, that they're taking that time to make that connection and that bond that's needed. And one thing that a suggestion I always say is, what's wrong with on-site childcare? If you think about it, I have a daughter and I'm responsible for taking care of her just like my ex-wife is. So therefore, some days I might need to take the child to childcare, and it should always be on my ex to be the one doing that. And we all need to, make sure that any workplace policies or procedures or standards that we're putting in place, making sure that they are fair and equitable, but at the same time, making sure that they're human. Right now, a big thing is about work-life balance. So are the workplace policies work-life balance related? And also, are we making sure that we are paying attention to the dynamics of families? For men, take paternal leave. I have to tell you, in today's world, a couple days ago, I was very happy when I saw that the Department of Transportation Secretary had taken parental leave because he and his spouse had decided they were going to adopt a child. And he did not have any regrets or any ill feeling about doing that. And I said, that's awesome that he did that. Why? Because it lessens the stigma. In the past, it was always maternity leave. That's colleague. She's going to be out for 6 weeks or 12 weeks for maternity leave. How are we going to, let's work around this. And, it was always a stigma, and it was always around just women taking it. Well, we have parental leave as well. And paternal leave. So we should take that and get that bond and everything. Parental leave is not just a women's issue. It is a shared issue. I know that when my daughter was born and when I was married, there was no way on earth that my ex was going to be the one taking care of the child all by herself. And I had to be the one who went to work and lived my life while she was trying to struggle to figure out, how she's going to get to work on time or how is she going to finagle to get herself away from work to pick them up from childcare. We shared that responsibility. And I had no qualms going to my manager at the time and saying, hey, I got to leave at 3:30 because I have to pick up my child who's an hour away, and I'm not going to pay an extra $100 every 15 minutes because the child is late. And I didn't get any pushback for that. So I think in my own little way at that organization, especially, I took away that stigma and made it so that it wasn't just a woman's issue. It was all of our issues. Mentor and sponsor. There's a big thing we hear about mentoring, right? And a mentor offers advice and consulting. And that is great. That is also always great, especially for people who are looking to either enter a career or they want to level up their career. Mentoring is awesome to give them great advice and consult with them. But another big thing and this goes back to tip number 1, being in the rooms. But another big thing is sponsoring. And a sponsor is the one who's going to be advocating and pushing for people. It's great to mentor and give advice and to help people. But a lot of women, they need somebody who's going to be in that back room, who's going to be in that boardroom, who's going to be in that meeting and talking and pushing and advocating for them to get that role, to get that position, to get that opportunity. And we shouldn't just be sitting back and just saying, oh, let's look at other men and for this role or this position or whatever it may be. Also, make sure that you offer to mentor or sponsor someone, especially people in the workplace. Some people don't want that. You are not here to push your will on them. Women are quite capable of being successful in the workplace on their own, and they sometimes may not need your assistance. And it's fine to ask, hey, would you mind if I sponsored you for this opportunity, or if I put your name in the hat for this? Don't just do it because you think, well, I'm helping. Maybe you're not. And once you speak with that person, then they're able to tell you if that is something that they want somebody to sponsor or to push for them. Tip number 7, be mindful of harassment. It's not good enough to avoid obvious harassments like sexual innuendo, sexist jokes, or commenting on a woman's appearance. harassment takes on many different forms that are what I call very subtle, where as a man, we probably don't even realize it. But, think about the issue of maybe someone who was denied a promotion or denied an opportunity time and time again. And there's really no solid reason given to them as to why that happened and all. So it's good to talk to your colleagues to figure out, what's going on. How are they feeling about that? And also, if you notice something, to ask them, this is something that occurred that kind of bothers me. Am I taking this a bit too far or anything like that? You also have to have the courage to highlight and report this harassment as well. If I go back to the example of the female colleague who was denied a promotion or an opportunity, and this may have been the 5th or 6th time that they were, and you look back at it and you're like, there's really no reason that person should have been denied. Maybe I need to go report this, talk to a manager, talk to a director, talk to an executive, talk to HR, and say, I think there's something going on here. It doesn't directly affect me, but it's kind of disturbing. And for me as a Black male, it's really disturbing for me when I see that, because I'm like, well, gee, if they're doing that to this person, then what are they going to do to me? Or what have they done to me? So it's careful. We have to be very careful that we're always being mindful of harassment and we're looking for those answers. And sometimes you have to be the one to raise the alarm. Tip number 8, give women credit. Men, we need to stop mansplaining or heap-eating. Women that I've worked with, I've been very fortunate to, they can speak on their own. They have great ideas on their own. They can write on their own. They don't need us to come in and explain something because they just said something or what have you. They're quite doing it for themselves. It is okay to amplify, but make sure that we're giving the woman credit for who came up with the idea. So often I've seen in meetings where a woman will bring up a topic or bring up an idea or suggestion, and then the men just jump on it. And the next thing you know, you leave the meeting and thinking, did Steve come up with that idea? And somebody ends up saying, well, no, Amy mentioned something about it, right? But then later on, what happens? Steve gets the project, he gets the awards and accolades, and meanwhile, Amy sits in the corner. No, we don't need to do that. We need to stop doing that. It is fine to repeat the key points, but you always want to make sure you're keeping the woman, the person who brought that idea to light, keeping them in the focus. Instead of trying to explain it, if you need additional information, maybe ask questions, but you don't need to repeat it and try to take ownership of it, even subconsciously. Tip number 9, my favorite one, shut up. Men, we got to just be quiet. For one, it is rude and disrespectful. When you're in a meeting or when you're working with a woman and she has an idea or she has a train of thought, let them finish. We do that for men. I've never, ever seen a man cut off another man in a meeting, but I've seen it happen so many times with women. And unfortunately, I'm the bad guy when it comes to this, because I'll be the one to speak up and say, you know what, Tom, I think Beth was saying that. Beth, do you have something to say? Let them finish their thought. Let them have that circle, if you will, because they have a thought too, and they give to the workplace just like other men do. Also, I understand that sometimes, there might be a meeting going on or a collaborative session happening, and you get excited. And I tell you, hold back your excitement. Let the women finish. Answer any follow-on questions before we open our mouths. Let them get their thought out. It's their idea, not ours. And finally, tip number 10, speak up. We have to notice that all forms of injustice that women are exposed to. Talk to your colleagues, talk to your family members, even women. They will tell you stories sometimes that may just shock you, things that you may not even have considered or even thought of and all. But because we are not listening to women and we're not paying attention, we allow a lot of these injustices to continue on and even get bigger and bigger, if you will. We should also take action to hold the perpetrator accountable. It's not good just to say, oh, Tom didn't mean anything by that. No, they meant something. It came out of their mouth. So therefore, we need to hold them accountable for it. Maybe it might be reporting it. Maybe it might be ostracizing them from your group. Maybe that's not the person I want to hang out with, because if you're doing that to women, I don't want you in my presence at all. Also support the victim. So often in the workplace, especially in IT, we try to keep the waters calm, if you will, right? We try to make it so that we don't want too much drama or too much excitement. But look, if a woman comes to you or expresses something that happens, don't just blow her off. Listen to what she has to say and see what can be done to assist them if they want the assistance. But make sure that you're not just blowing off the complaints that you hear. Listen to them, and if needed, take action. And also, finally, use your privilege to say and do something. I can't tell you how many times that I've been able to use my different positions in organizations to be able to push that stone a little further along the path, if you will. Remember what I said the very first slide. We have a certain privilege in certain offices at this point in the game. Hopefully that privilege will go away as time goes on. But while we have it, we need to use it to advocate and assist and support our female colleagues. So that's my talk today. Again, my name is Jonathan Lightfoot. I believe that allyship of women in the workplace, especially in IT, is vitally important. I have been privileged over my career in IT and the Navy to work with some wonderful women, well, not just some, a lot of them, some of which I think are even other speakers on here. And I've been amazed by the resilience, the encouragement, the knowledge, and also just the can-do-itness of it all. And if we can get to a better place where we are speaking up for women and making sure that we're using our privilege to help them in the workplace, then we're going to have a great workplace in the future.
Thank you for sharing your story of how you've supported women in tech and ways other men can do the same, Jonathan. Now we'll hear from Daniel Ray, a community leader, technical trainer, consultant, and public speaker. He gets excited building teams that reflect diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this session, he will share ways to create a diverse and inclusive set of community members.
Thanks, Deborah, and thanks to the Power BI Women's Summit for this invitation to present about different people I know in the Power BI community, and specifically my allyship to women in that community. My Power BI journey began in 2018 when I met Jessica Jolly. Jessica and I worked for the same company training end users, but Jessica was bringing Power BI knowledge and ways to provide analogies to Power BI for novice users that were just getting in to the visualizations and the work that you can do with Power BI. Jessica is one of those unique individuals that can take really complex topics and present them in a way that anyone can understand. And she was my first ally, male or female, within the Power BI community. She is someone that I can still go to with Power BI questions to get those answered. Donna Sarkar is somebody that I met at Microsoft that is in leadership. And I met her when she was the leader of the Windows Insiders group, and I joined when Windows 10 came out. Donna moved to the Power Platform, Power BI team, and was somebody that I met and had a one-on-one conversation with in her role as a senior leader at Microsoft. Donna was instrumental in not only lighting the passion about Power BI under my interests and connecting me with different opportunities at Microsoft. Years before, I met Leandra Jordan. Leandra is another Microsoft certified trainer and was somebody that I met when Microsoft Ignite was in Atlanta, Georgia. Leandra reached out to me and said, "Hey, Dan, do you know Donna?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And she was going to kick off her She's Soul Techie YouTube channel. And her first guest was Donna. I was so excited for Leandra, and I was even more excited when she asked me to join the two of them to talk about everything Power BI, allyship, Microsoft ecosystem. We were all over in 45 minutes, and it was super fun and engaging. Leandra introduced me to Jackie Chiatti, and Jackie is another one of those Microsoft certified trainers that's super passionate about Power BI and all things Power BI, Excel, and Office 365. Jackie was responsible for my invite to speak with you here today, and has been another one of those people that I can reach out to about any questions Power BI related or the Microsoft technical community. She's a great person to get to know if you don't already know her. And then when I returned to Microsoft in 2019 as a full-time employee, I met Eden Persangi. And Eden has one of those unique skills of blending deep technical knowledge with presentation and the people skills to bring that technical knowledge to life. Eden has great presentations that not only teach you about the technical side of Power BI, but you have some fun in those presentations as well. So they're super memorable. If you have a chance to see Eden Persangi present, you don't want to miss it. So she is another person in my Power BI community. There are others that I met through my travels with that first job that I met Jessica Jolly at. I traveled the United States for over a year teaching end users about Power BI and other aspects of the Office 365 system. And in those travels, I met Mariah up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And other than getting up there to visit family, I didn't know a lot about the technical community. Mariah not only let me know about user groups and events that they had going on, but was also somebody from a large company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and asked specific questions about the Office 365 usage reports that you could get out of Power BI. She is someone that I've kept in touch with and that I can go back to ask about real world information from those reports. A great resource from the Power BI community that I met through traveling and talking about Power BI with hundreds of professionals. And finally, Denisha and I met through my invite from Jackie to speak here today. Denisha is a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, and in that role gives back to the community and shares her passion about Microsoft technologies. Denisha is just the latest of a large group of Power BI influencers that I have met over the years. And that continues to grow. And I enjoy learning more about Power BI and the Power BI community every single week. And in its interaction with products like Microsoft Teams, Excel, and the other applications within Office 365. In closing, one of the things that I have realized is the people that I know in the Power BI community are what make it strong. By meeting different people, I have those experts at companies like Mariah. I have people that are passionate about the technology like Eden. I have that very first person that I met in the Power BI community, Jessica Jolly. I have people like Jackie that got me connected with people like Denisha. And all of these people have influenced my understanding of Power BI and the technical people and the passionate people I can reach out to when I have questions. Thank you for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you for your session on people you should know, Daniel.
We'd like to thank our male allies for sharing the ways that they support women in technology.
Over time, I've realized that my passion is to help others become the best versions of themselves. And I do this by mentoring and giving back to the community. Hi, I'm Denisha Malone, and I am the Power BI Queen. I graduated from the University of Memphis with a bachelor's in business information technology. During my 5th internship in college, I was hired for a logistics company with the busy work to migrate some SQL Server reporting services reports to Power BI. And Power BI was not generally available, so there were no resources online for the new tool. I successfully moved those reports to Power BI and also created resources for anyone in a company who wanted to do the same. This is where I fell in love with Power BI. After leaving that internship, I decided to channel my own creativity by designing my own Power BI reports for fun. I used data to show the number of fast food restaurants per state as it correlates to the obesity rate, the population, and the income. I chose to visualize this data because I knew it had a social impact and it would grab the attention of people who've never used Power BI before. This report made others interested in analytics and even more curious about Power BI. At the end of 2019, the COVID pandemic started, and this led to me traveling less for speaking engagements and consulting of Power BI. I think it's important to be intelligent, and there are different ways to be intelligent. Because of my experience in business intelligence, emotional intelligence, and social intelligence, through life experiences, I decided to bring these all together in an online course for others to access and learn more about each. Because of this, I launched my online school for business, social, and emotional intelligence. The Power BI course is free and perfect for beginners. Students can contact me anytime for help, and it's really hands-on, which I enjoy. I am socially extroverted and great at training people in the data industry to understand business intelligence and storytelling. Because of this, I'm comfortable working with people at any stage of their journey to become more intelligent. I can't wait to see you in a course soon. Power BI Women is a virtual user group sponsored by Microsoft, led by me, Kelly Kay, and Jackie Chiatti. We meet twice a month, once for a town hall and again for a learning session. During the town halls, we discuss experiences and careers, and we also hear from a Microsoft employee from the BI team. The learning sessions are a place where we allow women in the community to have a safe place to share knowledge and also start or advance in their speaking career. It is important for me to help others in the community, especially the ones that are least represented. This is mainly because I'm the first in my family to graduate college. There was no one to provide career guidance for me until my last year of college. With being a successful Black woman in the corporate industry, I find it necessary to help others that look like me understand that they can live their dreams and be successful too.
Now, prepare to be inspired by women technology leaders as they share their stories.
Next joining us is Dr. Georgette Fraser-Moore, an executive consultant and CEO of Transformation Lead, LLC. She brings 20 plus years of IT strategy and business operations experience from global corporations, international consulting, and government agencies. In addition, Dr. Fraser-Moore has held leadership positions in technology organizations, serves on the advisory boards of several universities, and is a contributor to the Forbes Technology Council. She will speak on the opportunities for women in technology and advice for emerging and established women leaders.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I'm going to jump right on in. Becoming a woman in technology and the endless possibilities. That's a huge subject, but where I would probably start is the secret to success. So if you're already a seasoned woman in technology, you may already know the secret. But if you're not, or you're at a phase where you're thinking about getting into technology, or you're thinking about changing your career, or you're maybe at an early stage in your career and you haven't necessarily found your ground yet, you may want to know the secret. And that secret, what secret is it? I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to share this with everyone yet, but the secret to a successful career as a woman in technology is the fact that there is not a secret. There's really no secret, and everyone's journey in technology is completely different. The more women I meet, the more journeys I hear of. So you may have always wanted to be a technologist, or you may have stumbled upon and fell into this career path by accident. Some of you may be out there making a conscious decision right now to change your career path, or you may be in a different career right now and you're making a mid-career change or a mid-career decision. There's so many ways that women change and women enter technology, but there's some characteristics that I find to be common across threads that allow women to be truly, truly successful. So I'm going to kind of take it back just a little bit and tell you a little bit about how I became a woman in technology. I'd like to say that, that I chose tech, but I didn't. I didn't choose technology. Technology chose me. So growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be the Claire Huxtable of the criminal justice system. But at 11 years old, technology chose me. I received an invite to go to a new concept school in New York. At the time, they said it was a school for the gifted, and they were just starting it out. I was part of the very, very first cohort, and the name of the school was the Computer School. At that point, I had never even owned a computer. But at 11 years old, I not only started writing code, but I started hacking into the computers in the school, and I grew a love for technology. Now, this Claire Huxtable wannabe eventually grew up, and after middle school, went to high school, and my career goals did not change. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to change the world through the legal process. But when making a decision for law school, my mom wouldn't let me go to Stanford. Stanford was on the other side of the country, and I was a little immigrant girl that grew up in New York City with me and my mom, and she had different plans. I could not get up and leave at 17 years old and go all the way to the other side of the country by myself. So my counselor, they ended up, you'd probably say they're a person that changed my life, but my counselor, in conversation, and my distraught that I could not go to law school, at least not at that time, my counselor said, "Hey, what is something else that you love?" And I thought back to being 11 years old and hacking into the computers at school and changing the algorithms behind the startup and changing how it processed and building code. And I said, you know what? I do really, really love computers. And I had a passion for computers. I had a passion for figuring out things. I even wanted to break it and rebuild it. And that's some of the things that I ended up doing. But I decided to go to school for computer information systems. Now life happens, right? And you're a woman. So, well, most of you are women. You might have some men in here listening, but life happens to us women, and it doesn't always go as planned. So early on, I became a mom. I grew a family while I was in school. So I was going to school for computer information systems, wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. And at this point, I was a mom with 2 kids and married and building, and I had a really great job. I worked in banking. I worked in banking when I was going through college and even after college. And I kind of, at this point in life, I say I'm a recovering banker, which is extraordinarily interesting, but I did build a whole career in banking. I'm not going to get too far into that. But as a single mom and a recurring banker, somewhere around my late 20s, early 30s, I had to figure out, how do I go back and figure out what my career was supposed to be? So for me, myself, I didn't become a lawyer immediately. I ended up with a career in banking, and I ended up with an education in computer information systems. And I needed to figure out, what do I do next? So as a career changer, I had to give up. I gave up my job as an assistant vice president at a local bank here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was offered a great opportunity to be an intern in technology, an intern getting paid $15 an hour, I believe. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that opportunity sounded like everything. So as a mom, as a person that had a career as an adult, I gave up my assistant vice president banker job, where I wore suits every day, to be an intern for $15 an hour at a financial technology innovation firm. Now, this goes back to the secret. The secret, there's no secret. There's not a secret for everyone in their career and how things happen and how you're supposed to get in technology. But one thing that I find common throughout all women that are successful is the fact that they don't give up. They set their minds on something. And when they're willing, when they've set their mind to do it, they do everything in their power to do it. So now, as a I guess in your 20s, well, 30s, you're now somewhat a middle-aged person. I am an intern making $15 an hour. And I had to learn figure out how to take my skills that I already had and transition them into technology. Now, I've been coding and building websites since I was 11 years old. I've been hacking into computers and doing cybersecurity since forever and a day. But now in the corporate world, things are a little bit different, and you end up seeing some challenges. There's some challenges that are different, not just as an incoming technologist, but there are some challenges that are unique being a woman in technology. Some of those is, will they take me seriously? 9 times out of 10, I am the only woman in the room. I may be the only minority in the room sometimes, and I am usually leading the discussion. And in leading the discussion, you need to be able to at least have the confidence and believe in yourself so that other people can believe in you as well. So I remember one situation. I was the only woman in the room, and I happened to be in a leadership position, and I needed to get a system built, a brand new technology that had not happened before. And this was something that we were using emerging technology, financial technology, bridging it all together for a client. And my software development team, that was new to me. They didn't know me very well, and I was new to the organization. They didn't know who this woman was or who this woman was and why was I there and what made me or gave me the credentials to be able to build technology. One thing that I can reflect on during those moments is connecting with people. So those software developers they're in their zone. I am a business technologist, and I'm working to innovate and working to drive the vision. And in that space, those technologists looked at me and said, hey, she probably doesn't know this side. So what I did was I sat down with them while they were writing code, and I kind of translated their code, and I helped them work through their issues. Some of them had some blockers that they had been stuck on and couldn't get past them for the last couple of days. I said, hey, what are some of the things that aren't working? And they said, hey, this one thing isn't working. And they kind of said it at a really high level. I was able to dig into the code really quickly and pull out some of the lines of code where I saw some things that we could change. And I worked together with the technologists and the software developers to help them overcome their situations or overcome the problems and challenges that they were facing. So that did 2 things as a woman in tech. 1, it showed that I knew what I was talking about. 2, I have to know what I'm talking about to be able to jump in and do it. But 3, it was building an amazing relationship with the team that I was supporting and that was supporting me in this journey so that we can deliver things for our customer. So I talked a lot about getting into tech. There's tons of ways to get in. I'm going to repeat this again because, well, I'm a teacher too. So in getting into tech, there's tons of paths and none of them are the same. So you could be a career transitioner. This may have been your plan forever, Or this may be something that you just stumbled upon. But once you get in the door in technology, you still have to secure your seat. You have to do whatever you can to make sure that you're taken seriously. You need to stay on top of the technology so that you know what's happening and you know what the technology can do and you know the new things. And technology changes so quickly. There's new technology coming out every day. There's new companies creating new things, and there's new software and emerging tech concepts that seem to be popping up every other day. So you need to stay abreast of those things. Our company is a Microsoft partner, but in being with technology, it's important for me, even as a CEO, to make sure that I understand the new technology that's coming out. And I am making sure that in addition to the stuff that we're using, that I stay abreast of those new technologies like artificial intelligence, which is really, really cool. I get to work with artificial intelligence. I get to work with, on a business perspective, being able to advance drone technology and how it's being used in business. And I get to do some really cool things with other emerging technologies. Technology has opened doors for me to be able to be in some rooms that I've never been in before. You can use technology to do a lot. And I mean, when I say technology, I'm talking about the technology itself, but in your career, you can leverage a career in technology to do a lot and to go a lot of places. So what advice would I give to emerging women that are trying to get into technology or emerging and established leaders in technology? Honestly, there are a couple things that really stand out to me in those that achieve success in this area. One is the understanding that you are not limited, that there is no limits and the sky is not the limit, but you can go higher than the sky, especially in the realm of technology. The number two thing, which is probably the number one thing, is believing in yourself, knowing your worth and knowing that you can do it, not being afraid to do it, and being willing to step up, speak up, and break the mold for things that you have a voice on. Jump in and use your voice in technology. If you've been invited into a room, you've been invited in there for a reason. Utilize that space and take your space and be able to and let people know what you know. Let people know your ideas. Let people know that you can think outside of the box. Let people know that you can, if there's some technology that they're trying to figure out and you have an idea on it, you may not be sure if it's going to work, but still step up and speak and be able to share those ideas and be able to be part of that innovation process. Another piece of advice for emerging and established leaders, but for all leaders in technology, whether you're a woman or a man, the biggest thing that I think that you can do as a leader is create opportunities for technologists and innovators and people that are interested in the space, and even trying to help those that may not know about the space yet get excited about it and help them get interested in the space of technology. Everyone is always talking about leaning in and stepping up, but sometimes it's not about you, it's about the other people that you can touch. And there's power in numbers when you can open the door and create connection and provide opportunities for people that are interested in that space. Extend that invite to technology, invite more technologists in, and don't let anything in life deter you from trying again, even if you fail. So the last thing I would probably say to emerging and established technology leaders is try and try again. Be like that little engine that could and say, I think I can, I think I can, I know I can, I know I can. There are some things that seem like you don't have control over it, but don't let that experience or that thought or that fear stop you. Let that fear drive you and make sure that you're willing to try again and continue to push within technology. Technology opens many, many doors. For me, we have a 5-year-old company that works in innovation and emerging technology. I get the opportunity to speak at events like this and speak all over the world. I've been to most continents, speaking and advancing innovation in tech. I continue to help mentor and grow other women in tech. But the biggest thing I think that I get is the fact that my brain continues to learn and grow and be able to advance and watch and see how this technology kind of moves and grows and advance. And I advance with the technology itself. So if there's one thing that I'm going to leave you with is Don't give up on yourself and stay with technology. I hope you guys are enjoying the conference so far. So I look forward to seeing some of the other sessions. If you would like to connect with me, connect on LinkedIn. My name is Dr. Georgette Fraser Moore, or you can also check out our company, Transformation Lead LLC. You can go to our website, www.transformationlead.com. We are hiring for innovators, technologists, project managers, business consultants, and specialists within emerging technologies. Thank you so much for listening today, and have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you, Dr. Fraser Moore. I'm sure women will benefit from your advice on becoming a technology leader. Next up, we have Belinda Allen, a trainer and coach and Microsoft Power BI MVP. Belinda is currently a Microsoft Power Platform certified trainer, speaker, and the co-author of 2 books on business intelligence and Microsoft Dynamics GP. In her session, she will share her journey from marketing major to Microsoft MVP so that others can apply these lessons in their own journeys.
Thanks, Deborah. If you're attending this session, you're probably interested in becoming an MVP, or you just want to learn more about the Microsoft MVP program. And I'm going to share my journey with you on how I became an MVP, because it was kind of by accident, not necessarily by design. So I'm Belinda Allen, as Deborah mentioned, and I'm a Power BI MVP. So I'm part of the data platform team. Now, my degree in college was marketing, so I was far from IT. In fact, there were very few IT degrees available when I was in college. This was back in the 80s, so there wasn't a lot to choose from. You could do Fortran, or mainframe systems were big. The PC wasn't quite out yet, and so there wasn't a lot you could do in as far as IT goes. So that was something that I've never thought about doing before. Although I have to say, I've always been very intrigued by technology. I grew up in the 70s. So growing up in the 70s, Mary Tyler Moore and the Mary Tyler Moore Show was something that I watched on a regular basis, and I adored Mary Tyler Moore. So when the spinoff show Lou Grant came on, of course I watched that because Lou Grant was one of the main characters in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I remember a 1980 episode. I looked up the year because I was curious about when I saw this. There was an episode, they ran a newspaper, where one of the characters faxed a photo that he took so that it could appear in the newspaper. Now, in 1980, fax machines were not popular. In fact, I'd never even heard of a fax machine, let alone had any inkling as to what it did. So I was unbelievably intrigued by the concept of a picture being transported from one place to someplace else in a matter of minutes. Yes, it was minutes, not the seconds we have now where we could just text something over our phone. So technology has always been something that's been very interesting to me. Now, I also love marketing, and I love the concept about why people interact with the way they do when it comes to things like consumption of goods, or why they buy something, or what motivates them to buy something or be interested in certain products. So right out of college, I was working for Holiday Corporation. In fact, I was a general manager of a Hampton Inn at the ripe young age of 24. At that point, they were owned by Holiday Corporation. And I had worked at hotels, particularly for Holiday Corporation, while I was in college. So it was just kind of a natural progression. And I remember at that bright young age of 24, where I was basically too stupid to know how stupid I was, I remember having to create or distribute bonuses, and I had certain percentages I had to do. So my husband, who was my then boyfriend at the time, suggested that I try doing it on the computer. Now, these were like, they didn't know computers with no hard drive. They had basically floppy disk in them. And so I had Multiplan, which was a Microsoft product, I believe. It was a spreadsheet way before Excel came out. And I created, it took me a long time, but I created a bonus plan where I could put everybody in, put in the maximum dollars, and then do a lot of what ifs until I was able to figure out who could get how much bonus. So that was my first introduction to doing anything technology related. And as I got married and I left my job and moved to where my husband was living, I started my own business doing a liaison work with customers and their CPAs. I was kind of the in-between. And that's when I actually bought my first PC. No hard drive in it. Everything ran on floppy disk. And so again, I was very intrigued with the idea of technology and what it could do for you. And I was benefiting customers and even doing their payroll by doing everything in an automated fashion. In fact, I brought one of my toys with me. This is a Hewlett-Packard PDA, personal digital or data administrator, or I don't even know what they called it then, but it's a giant tool. And if you compare it to my phone, it's bigger than my phone. It's super heavy. And yes, this was like the ultimate of new technology. It connected using this modem, right? This PCMCIA card. I'm really aging myself here. 33.6 modem. So it was lightning fast. But nonetheless, technology prevailed and I kept being more and more interested. And then I kind of fell into being a consultant for ERP software called Great Plains at the time, which Microsoft later purchased. And that's where my MVP journey really began. So part of this embracing of technology had to do with the way that my husband and I approached our customers. He also came from the hotel background. So we worked with our customers the same way we did when we had guests at the hotel. It's easy to meet the objectives or the expectations of hotel guests. They all want a clean room. They want a nice room, and they want to enjoy themselves and be treated special. So it was really easy to achieve their goals. When it comes to accounting software, it's a lot tougher because people get frustrated by working with technology when they don't know it. And so learning it is a little bit tougher. So we used a lot of those same approaches. In fact, I was very, very early. The first one I know in my circles to use video to help do tech support with people. Lotus 123, again, aging myself, had a video tool. So some of the common support issues I had, I created little videos and would put them on diskettes and I would mail them to our customers. Bulletin boards were out, but internet wasn't very prominent if it was existing at all. So we would mail out these diskettes and they could do a little bit of their own research, if you will, using these floppy disks. And we also incorporated user groups within our organization because we learned very quickly that customers who knew more about the product used it better, were happier, and they actually spent more with us because what they spent with us improved the return on investment. So every dollar they spent with us actually made their businesses better. It wasn't just an expense or a black hole of fixing a problem or answering a question. So we took great pride in that kind of attitude. And as we hired our team and grew our team, that was the atmosphere we tried to put out. Now, one of our team members became an MVP. His name is Jivtesh Singh. He now works for Microsoft. Still think of him as one of my children. Absolutely adore him. And he encouraged me to start blogging. So when the technology came around, I started to blog. And blogging is one of the ways that you could be awarded an MVP. So if you create a blog that helps other people, then that's one of the things you could do to get an MVP award. So I use that same approach of creating video content on diskettes, and I did it using YouTube. And I used my blog just to organize the channel and started distributing. So I pretty much started a vlog, if you will, a video blog, very, very early on trying to help people. And at that point, Jivtesh nominated me to become an MVP, and Microsoft acknowledged, because I had a lot of followers on YouTube and a lot of followers of my blog as well. Now, I want to talk about blogging for a moment, because if you are interested in becoming an MVP, you're going to probably want to have a blog, even if you don't blog on a regular basis. And the blog, if you think about how to blog for yourself or blog for someone out there who's just like you. There's the user out there who is at your same level or a notch below you that needs to take advantage of what you have to share. So if you blog for that individual, then you're going to be helping them. But I don't know anybody who blogs that hasn't gone into Bing or Google and did a search and found their own blog to answer their own questions. So if you think about it, if you create a blog for your own library of learning and just make it available for people to share or to pull from, then you're doing a great service. So let's get back to what the MVP program really is. It's an award. It's not a status that you want to strive to so much as it is Microsoft saying, hey, thank you. Thank you for contributing to our community. Thank you for making our community a better place. And that's what it's really about. So if you're not willing to do community work and help out, then there's no point in even thinking about becoming an MVP. There is a certain amount of status that we think we have. I don't know that that's reality, but we think we have a certain amount of status. But nonetheless, I don't know any MVPs that have been MVPs for any length of time that do not care about the community as a whole, that are not always striving to help other people in the community. And that's just a reality. And all the people who are presenting to you at this conference are caring about the community, and they're wanting to share their experiences and share their knowledge with you. And that's what being an MVP is really about. So you could be an MVP that blogs, you could be an MVP that does videos, you could be an MVP that presents. An important MVP activity is maintaining forums. So any of the forums out there, particularly like the Microsoft Community Forum, if you go out there and you answer questions, or even if you're just saying, hey, you should ping so-and-so because I think they're a good resource, or check out this person's blog because I think it could probably help you. That is making your community a better situation. So that's something that's definitely going to benefit you in the long and the short run. So that's something that you definitely want to work on doing. Now, even mentoring is a way to help people along. And especially as women, we are in a little bit of a different boat than our men counterparts in technology. There are significantly fewer of us out there. And particularly if you extend it along the diversity group, which I am now trying to increase in technology, and that would be all women, all people of color, whether African American or Latinos, it doesn't matter, Hispanics of all natures, any person of color, any woman, any member of the LGBTQ, any person that is differently abled, all of these people need to have a stronger presence in the IT community. We're not even a third of the community for most places, and that's pretty sad. It's unfortunate that someone who has been in IT as long as I have, I've been in IT over 30 years. And in 30 years, you would think I would be in situations where I'm no longer the only woman in the room. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Still frequently, I'll attend something that is a little more techie, and I look around and I'm the only woman in the room. And even worse, I look around and I don't see anybody of color, or I don't see anyone who has apparent different abilities. So we need to make sure that we are more inclusive in everything we do. And it could be something as easy as greeting someone that you see. You see another female in the room, walk up and say, hi, what are you thinking of this session? And make them feel a little bit welcomed. I look back in all of my years because I have these philosophies in life. And one of them is you find what you go looking for. And so I would say I'm not going to look for any kind of sexism attitude. I'm not going to look for boys' clubs. I know they were there. I just chose not to look for them and do what I had to do in spite of them and not because of them or running from them. And in doing so, I frequently would not acknowledge the other person in the room who was the standout, like I was the only woman, or maybe they would be the second woman, or they would be a person of color. And I regret that from all these years that I didn't walk up and try to make them feel a little bit better. I hope that they continue to go to events like that, even though nobody even, welcomed them. But I would just get in my own little world and do my own little thing, like a lot of IT people would do. So that's something that we want to make sure that we do as women who are attending this, and actually anyone who's attending this, even if you are someone who doesn't fall within my definition of diversity, then you should at least see if there's someone diverse in the room, make them feel welcome. So make them feel like that they could come back and attend again. This is so incredibly important. As we have children and daughters and granddaughters, we do not want things to end up the same way for them that they were for us. Now, I didn't face as much issues as a lot of women face because I started my own company very early on and have worked for myself for all these years. So gender issues was not a question with me. But unfortunately, so many young girls are starting in IT fields and leaving because they're running into these boys' club niches. And this is something that we want to really work to avoid. So back to the whole picture, because if you're thinking about diversity, then that's a way of helping the community as well. It's all about making people better users, making people prosper in their own business world. And that's something that we want to do. So whether you have chosen IT as your profession of choice, or you fell into it like I did, embrace it. Take what you've learned and share it with everybody that you could think of in any way that works for you. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing all the ways, but do them in a way that works for you. Blogging, or become a presenter, or answer forum questions. Any of those activities will make you become a community leader. And that's all you really need to do. And even if you're on a new journey, you're like, well, I don't know enough about Power BI yet to do any of these things. Well, then my thing to you is you're the perfect person then, because there's someone who's in that same learning space you're in. They're like, I'm just starting to dip my toe in. So take them on the journey with you. A very dear friend of mine, Steve Indo, who's an MVP, he was learning a new Dynamics product, a Microsoft Dynamics product, and he was already an MVP of another Dynamics product. But what he did was beautiful and brilliant. He's like, I'm going to learn this, and I'm just going to take people on the journey. He started doing YouTube live events, and he also had live events on streaming also on some other avenues as well. And as he learned the product, he would share what he was learning while he was learning it. And it was a beautiful thing because he rose a lot of people with him in the product. He's also one of the people who'd made me painfully aware of how few women were out there. I kind of got complacent in it at an MVP summit the day beforehand. We're having lunch. There are 4 of us who are very good friends. 2 of us were female, 2 male. And he leans over and whispers, where are the women? And my answer was, we're right here. And he goes, no, at this conference. And that was a reminder to me of how few of us there are. So we really need to not only work with technology on improving ourselves and bringing up the community, but we should pay attention to the people who are like us and help them rise too. So I hope that this has some, kind of like personal touches for you. I know it may sound like I'm rambling a bit, but this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Like becoming an MVP, my goal was 10 years. I hit 10 years this year. And so I'm quite happy with my MVP journey so far. I get more excited than you could possibly imagine when somebody tells me, hey, I learned from that. That was a cool topic, or that was just what I needed to hear when I needed to hear it, regardless of whether I'm talking about a product feature or I'm talking about let's help our sisters along, let's help people of color along, let's make the room look more like the world that we're in. So that being said, I'm going to close out for now. Reach out to MVPs. Reach out to me if you're interested in learning more about the MVP program and you want a little bit of guidance, because I'm here to help, just like every other MVP and just like every fantastic presenter in this conference that we're having. So have a good one, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your story and lessons on becoming a technology community evangelist and becoming an advocate for others, Belinda.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Wow, what a show. We've come to the end of our Power BI Women's Summit, everyone. That was fantastic. I learned so much, and thank you to all of the community, our volunteers, our MVPs, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. It really meant a lot, and I learned so much. Denisha, what about you?
Yes, it was amazing, very inspiring. Thank you so much to our speakers, and thank you to all the attendees who checked us out. How about you, Deborah? What are your thoughts?
It was great. Thank you so much to the speakers. I have so much information that I can take to the office back with me. Can't wait. What about you, Jackie?
Oh my goodness, I was blown away by the quality of the presentations. Really had a great summit.
Oh, that's awesome, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, well, Jackie, take us home.
Thank you for attending our first annual Power BI Women's Summit. I want to say a huge thank you to our community and to our volunteers for helping to organize this event. I also would like to thank Microsoft's Power BI team for supporting it. Please join our group by going to aka.ms/Power BI Women. Until next year's summit, take care and be well. Bye.
Bye. See you next year.